Chapter 13:10. Yun Xiao furrowed his brows and moved sideways to evade the drop of blood. Who would have guessed that the drop of blood which had been enveloped by energy would suddenly return and enter Yun Xiao's heart with a swoosh? Yun Xiao, there's no point in hiding, huh? My essence blood will follow you until it enters your body. Bai Su's lips curled into an evil angle as he stared disdainfully at Yun Xiao. Furthermore, as long as my blood is in your body, you will never be able to unite with Yun Luofeng. Of course, there's only one way to break this. That is, you must find another woman. In this way, Yun Luofeng will never accept you again. Indeed. Bai Su understands Yun Luofeng very well. As long as Yun Xiao does anything to let her down, she will leave him forever. Yun Xiao's expression was icy cold and the murderous intent in his eyes grew even stronger. With a loud bang, he raised a powerful energy and fiercely struck Bai Su's chest. Pfft! Bai Su spat out a mouthful of blood and he stared disdainfully at Yun Xiao. Yun Xiao, from today onwards, you can't touch Yun Luofeng again. Otherwise, you will suffer unbearable pain. However, I can give you a suggestion. Find another woman and unite with her. That will remove the blood curse I've placed on you. As long as Yun Luofeng doesn't find out, he will never leave you. Boom! Yun Xiao raised his hand once again and the energy continued to strike Bai Su's body. In that instant, Bai Su felt as if his body had been smashed into pieces and the pain was unbearable. If he could recover his former powers, he would not have been suppressed by Yun Xiao like this. Unfortunately, his powers had recovered too slowly and he was unable to defeat Yun Xiao. Your schemes. Yun Xiao raised his eyes and said grimly, will never succeed. I will never do anything to let her down. Bai Su replied with disdain, even if you can never touch her again? As long as this blood curse exists, every time you touch her, your heart will be in unbearable pain. Can you endure this kind of torture? For her, I'm not afraid of the 18 levels of hell, what more a blood curse? Yun Xiao's expression grew even colder and the cold from his body grew even more intense. Just as he was about to attack Bai Su again, his heart twitched violently and he clutched it tightly. Do you feel this pain? Bai Su slowly stood up from the ground. Even if she misses you, your heart will still ache. Hearing this, Yun Xiao's lips curled into a faint smile. This is not bad. Bai Su was shocked as she looked at Yun Xiao in astonishment. Yun Xiao's smile was filled with warmth as she clutched her heart tightly. If I'm not by her side in the future, then I can feel her longing. Wasn't this a good thing? Yun Xiao, are you really not going to find another woman to break the blood curse? Bai Su's face darkened. Yun Xiao raised her head and the smile on her lips disappeared. Her face was cold and expressionless. Other than her, I won't touch anyone else. Bai Su glanced at Yun Xiao one last time before raising her hand to help Jin Yu up. Her eyes sank as she said, let's go. With that, he quickly turned around and fled out of the city gate. Yun Xiao's eyes turned cold as he gathered all his energy on his body. With a loud bang, he chased after the two people who were fleeing for their lives. Boom! This energy hit Bai Su's body, causing him to stagger violently and almost fall from the sky. Perhaps Yun Xiao had used too much energy this time, causing a hole to appear on Bai Su's back. Blood filled the air and dyed his silver robes red. Chapter 13:11. Bai Su did not even dare to stop. Enduring the pain, he ran away. Yun Xiao wanted to chase after him, but at this moment, he felt another sharp pain in his heart, forcing him to stop. Master. A gray figure descended from the sky and landed beside Yun Xiao. Do you want me to chase after him? No need. Yun Xiao frowned. Even if Bai Su is seriously injured, you're no match for him. Yun Xiao clutched his chest tightly. A blood curse that consumed 1,000 years of his lifespan? If it were not for the blood curse, Bai Su would have died today. Don't let Feng know about this. Yun Xiao thought for a moment before he instructed. Lin Xiong was startled and carefully suggested, Master, why don't you listen to Bai Su's suggestion and find a woman? Just don't let Madam know, Yun Zhao's cold eyes swept over Lin Xiong. His gaze made Lin Xiong's heart turn cold. It was as if he had fallen into an ice cellar, so cold that he shivered all over. Go back and receive your punishment. The man's voice was cold and merciless. Perhaps no one could move him except for Yun Luofeng. Lin Xiong bowed with a pale face. Yes, master. After throwing down these words, Yun Xiao turned around and left. The hand that was tightly clutching his chest tightened slightly. Slap. Lin Xiong slapped herself in the face. It's all my fault. I've offended Master again. A few years ago, Master threw me into prison for punishment because I provided Master with erotic pictures. Now that I've finally been released, I've been forced to live a life of darkness again because of my mouth. Master was so infatuated with Madam. Perhaps, even if he died, he would not betray Madam. In the slums, countless people had gathered on the street. They were pointing at the two parties who were fighting and discussing. With a bang, Hu Li took 2 steps back. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked up at the group of people in front of him. Holy King! These people were also shocked by the strength that Hu Li had displayed. They had not expected that Hu Li had really broken through to become a holy king. Unfortunately, so what? Even if he was a saint king, he was only one person, while they were a group. How could they possibly be afraid of him alone? Thinking of this person, the elders once again launched an attack on Hu Li, showing no mercy. Yun Luofeng. Hu Lin was a little anxious. He looked at Yun Luofeng and begged, "Can you help my brother?" Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows. Without waiting for her to speak, Hu Li's voice rang out. "No need, I alone am enough." A cold smile hung on the corners of his lips as he stared coldly at the members of the Hu family. Luohua City has been quite lively recently. I wonder what happened in front. Suddenly, an aged voice sounded out from behind the crowd, and it was filled with curiosity. I'm not sure. We should hurry and find Hu Li, Feng, and the others in case that madman finds Feng, The one who said this was a woman. Her voice was very flirtatious and stood out in the crowd. All right, I'll ask where Hu Li's home is now. Ling Hai chuckled. He casually grabbed a person and asked, "Is there a person called Hu Li in your Luohua city?" "Where is he?" "Hu Li." That person was stunned for a moment and pointed to the front. "He's fighting with someone, what?" Ling Hai's expression changed greatly and he stood up in rage. Hu Li is fighting with someone. In other words, someone has provoked Feng again? Who is so reckless? Who dares to provoke even my disciple? Chapter 13:12. As soon as he finished speaking, Ling Hai dashed forward with a whoosh. Shuang shook her head helplessly and quickly chased after him. On the battlefield, Hu Li was fearless in the face of the elders' attacks. His handsome face remained expressionless. At this moment, an angry voice came from the sky and separated the two sides of the battle. Stop! This voice was like a devil's voice piercing through everyone's ears, striking their hearts like a hammer, causing their bodies to tremble. Hu Youwu looked up in surprise and saw 2 people walking out of thin air. One of them was an old man whose face was livid with anger. The other was an elderly woman. Because she had taken good care of her body, there were no traces of wrinkles on her face. Instead, she looked very charming. You are. Hu Youwu was stunned. He frowned and thought for a while. I remember you. You seem to be an elder of the West Continent Academy. An elder of the West Continent Academy? Everyone was stunned. Why would an elder of the West Continent Academy appear here? Hu Youwu was lucky to be able to meet Ling Hai. When he was young, he followed his father around the world and coincidentally met the popular Ling Hai. He remembered him even more. However, Ling Hai did not recognize Hu Youwu. He walked down from the sky and quickly walked in front of Yun Luofeng with a nervous expression. Disciple, are you all right? Disciple? Like a bolt from the blue, Hu Youwu was stunned. This girl was Elder Ling Hai's disciple? Impossible. Why would Elder Ling Hai's disciple be together with Hu Li? I'm fine, Yun Luofeng shrugged. Hu Li is the one who's in trouble, not me. Hearing this, Ling Hai turned to look at Hu Li and said coldly, Hu Li, what happened? Hu Li looked at Hu Youwu and explained, he joined forces with someone to frame my father. I'm now settling the score with him. Nonsense. Hu Youwu glared at Hu Li. The one who framed your father was Ouyang Qianran, not me. Elder Ling Hai, don't listen to his nonsense. As his uncle, how could I harm his father? Ling Hai coldly snorted, do you think I will believe the disciples of my academy or you? After he finished speaking, he once again turned to Hu Li and said resentfully, Hu Li, in any case, you're a disciple of our academy's heavenly role. Why is it so difficult to deal with these people? What if they accidentally hurt my precious disciple? At this moment, Ling Hai seemed to have forgotten that Yun Luofeng was stronger than Hu Li. How could these people hurt her? But now, no one was thinking about this sentence anymore. They were all stunned by Ling Hai's words. Heavenly ranking disciple? Was Hu Li really a disciple of the academy's heavenly list? Hu Youwu's body trembled and he staggered a few steps. In the end, he couldn't bear it and fell to the ground with a bang. His face was pale and filled with fear. He was probably regretting his actions to the point that his intestines had turned green. Hu Youwu had never thought that Hu Li would really be a disciple of the heaven role. No, I still have young Master Bai Su. Hu Youwu's eyes turned from despair to hope. How could he forget about young Master Bai Su? With young Master Bai Su's strength, he would definitely be able to defeat the person in front of him. At this moment, Hu Youwu had never thought that if Bai Su really had the confidence to defeat Yun Luofeng and the others, then, why would he hide himself and let him be the one to stand out? Chapter 1313. Yun Shao. Yun Luofeng raised his head and saw Yun Shao slowly walking towards him. His eyes held a smile as he asked, how is it? Yun Zhao's heart throbbed violently when he saw the girl's smile. He instinctively wanted to raise his hand to cover his heart, but when he remembered that Yun Luofeng was right in front of him, he could only lower his hand. I didn't manage to kill Bai Su, and he escaped. Bai Su escaped. The speaker did not mean it, but the listener did. Hu Youwu's expression changed instantly when he heard this. Sir, Bai Su escaped. Does this mean that I've been abandoned by him? No. Hu Youwu howled at the sky. Tears of despair finally flowed from his eyes and his face was ashen. Yin Shao, let's talk inside. Let Hu Li handle this himself. Yun Luofeng held Yun Zhao's hand and turned to enter the room. Yun Zhao's heart throbbed again, but he did not pull his hand out of Yun Luofeng's. He allowed him to pull him into the room. Yun Shao looked at Yun Luofeng seriously. I might need to leave for a while. Yun Luofeng was stunned. He turned to look at Yun Shao. You're leaving? Bai Su's power is not as good as mine, but I can't kill him either. Just as Bai Su had once said, Yun Shao could not kill him. Why? Yun Luofeng asked with a frown. Bai Su's body is very special. Not only does he have a long lifespan, his defense is also very strong. Of course, if it wasn't for the blood curse, Bai Su might have already died in his hands, so, I plan to go out and increase my power. Yun Luofeng grabbed Yun Zhao's arm tightly and said seriously, I'll go with you. No need, the place I'm going is too dangerous. I'm not afraid of any dangerous place. The girl's voice seemed to have a magical power that made Yun Zhao's heart feel like it was being torn apart again. It also made a drop of cold sweat appear on his handsome face. Yun Shao, are you hurt? Yun Luofeng looked a little nervous as he hurriedly checked Yun Zhao's body. Yun Shao lowered his gaze to stare at the young girl whose face was filled with worry. The corners of his lips curled into a slight angle. Don't worry, I'm fine. Believe me, I'll be back very soon. Hearing this, Yun Luofeng's hand gradually slid down from Yun Zhao's arm. After a long time, a devilish smile appeared on her lips, and her black eyes were filled with determination. Okay, I will wait for you to come back. Yun Shao smiled. He picked up Yun Luofeng's hand and pressed it tightly against his own chest. In the future, when I'm not by your side, I'll be able to feel it when you miss me. What he said was the truth. As long as Yun Luofeng missed him, his heart would be torn apart. Yun Luofeng tiptoed and kissed Yun Zhao's lips. As the two of them kissed, she clearly felt the man's body suddenly tremble. Yun Zhao. Yun Luofeng left the man's lips and stared in astonishment at the handsome and cold features. You. What's wrong? Why did he feel that something was wrong with Yun Zhao? I'm fine. Yun Zhao shook her head and forcibly suppressed the pain in her heart. She then said, Feng, you must wait for my return. As Yun Luofeng was in a daze, the man had already walked out of the room and gradually disappeared from her line of sight, outside the city gates. In the dense forest, the man's body leaned against a tree trunk. His hand was clutching his heart tightly. This heart-wrenching, lung-splitting pain would cause one's dashing brows to furrow deeply. Chapter 13-14. When he had been by Yun Luofeng's side, he had not dared to show it, no matter how much pain he was in. This was because the girl was too cautious. If he had shown even the slightest bit of pain, she would have noticed it. Master. At that moment, the man in green descended from the sky and cupped his fists respectfully. Lin Xiong has gone back to receive her punishment. Do you have any other orders, Master? Yun Zhao straightened his body. His hand was still clutching his heart tightly as a cold light flashed across his eyes. Middle ground. Middle ground? The man in green was stunned. Master wanted to go to middle ground? That place where powerful cultivators gathered? The heart of Bodhi only exists in middle ground. The heart of Bodhi? The green-clothed man asked cautiously, Master, may I be so bold as to ask, this Bodhi heart, the heart of Bodhi can keep me alive for 3 days. The man's voice was cold and deep, but the young man was stunned. Alive for 3 days? What did that mean? Since he placed the blood curse in my heart, I will dig out his blood essence even if I have to cut open my heart. The man's voice was extremely domineering and echoed in the forest for a long time. The young man was completely dumbfounded. Did the master mean that once he found the heart of Bodhi, he would not die for 3 days no matter what kind of injuries he suffered? He would not die even if he cut open his own heart? But that was his heart. The master had gone to such an extent just to not betray the mistress. The young man could not help but sympathize with Lin Xiong. The master loved the mistress so deeply, but he had suggested that the master find a woman to break the blood curse. Wasn't this equivalent to angering the master and throwing him out to be punished? If Qin Yuan was here, he would definitely not say anything that went against the master's wishes. On the other hand, Lin Xiong was more foolish. Yun Zhao clenched his chest tightly and looked up at the blue sky behind him. Feng, wait for me. Once I break the blood curse, I will come back to see you. Hu Li walked into the room and found that only Yun Luofeng was staring out the window in a daze. He coughed and said, I have settled the matter with the Hu family, so we can set off now. Yun Luofeng withdrew his gaze and nodded slightly. We will leave tomorrow. Take advantage of tonight to say goodbye to your father and brother. All right, that's right, Yun Luofeng, your husband, he. Hu Li was just about to ask about Yun Zhao when he was interrupted by Yun Luofeng's voice. He has something to do and needs to leave. We don't have to wait for him. Yun Luofeng gently lowered her eyes. Her heart was faintly filled with unease. She kept feeling that Yun Zhao seemed to be hiding something from her. Master. Just as Yun Luofeng was thinking about Yun Zhao, little Mo's voice slowly came from within her soul. No matter what Yun Zhao does, it's all for you. Therefore, the only thing you can do is to trust him. Yes. The only thing she could do was to trust her. Little Mo, I don't want to wait for him here. I will work hard to improve my strength and find him. She would find him at the ends of the earth. At the same time, in a mountain range, Jinyu, supported by Su's body, found a piece of stone, and stopped. She laid by Su's body flat on the stone, her beautiful eyes filled with heartache and worry. My lord, how are you? Bai Su did not even have the strength to open his eyes. Blood continuously seeped out from the bloody hole in his back, dyeing the stone red. Chapter 13:15. If his lord had not refined his physique to make his body different from an ordinary person, perhaps Yun Zhao's final attack would have killed his lord immediately. Jin Yu bit her lip tightly. However, even if his lord managed to save his life, he will still lose his life if he is not treated in time. What's more, he has just used 1,000 years of his life as the price to cast a blood curse. Bai Su's eyelids moved slightly and his hand hung limply on the ground. His face was already covered in blood and it was impossible to see his features clearly. However, in order to fight Yun Zhao, Bai Su had forcibly used his strength to restore his body size. Hence, Jin Yu had struggled to carry him along the way and her forehead was covered in a layer of sparkling and translucent sweat. My lord, I'm sorry. This subordinate is useless and that's why you've sustained such serious injuries. Jin Yu's expression softened and her beautiful eyes gazed tenderly at Bai Su. Her fingers gently stroked Bai Su's cheek as her lips curled into a shallow smile. Now, there's only one way to save you. Furthermore, it can also help you restore a certain amount of your strength. Even if you'll hate me for this, I must save you. She lowered her head and gently kissed Bai Su's blood-stained lips. She then raised her hand and removed all her clothes. Back then, his lord had picked me up because of my special physique. As long as I was nurtured with medicinal herbs, my body could become a medium for his lord to restore his strength. Unfortunately, my physique is still not enough for his lord to restore all of his strength. However, now, I have no other choice. This is the only way to save his lord's life. Bai Su furrowed his brows and instinctively wanted to resist. However, he did not even have the strength to raise his hand and could only allow that small hand to slide down his body. In the depths of the forest, the stone house was overflowing with spring. Jin Yu's movements were very rusty, and the pain made her beautiful face pale in an instant. Time ticked by and the man, who had his eyes tightly shut, suddenly opened them. His large hand fiercely hit Jin Yu's body and Jin Yu's body flew out with a loud bang before she landed pathetically on the ground. Master, are you all right? Jin Yu propped herself up and looked at Bai Su in surprise. Bai Su coughed twice and spat out a mouthful of blood. He clenched his fists tightly, and the blue veins on his forehead bulged. Jin Yu, how dare you? Who made you do such a thing? Perhaps it was because his injuries were too severe and he had yet to recover, but Bai Su's words seemed to lack strength. His devilishly handsome face was ashen. Master, Jin Yu bit her lips and stood up from the ground. Have you forgotten the ultimate purpose of bringing me back that year? Just now. I just wanted to help you. Bai Su sneered, help me? You're helping me? Get lost. Get out of my sight. I don't want to see you again. Master? Jin Yu was stunned. She knew that the master would definitely have an overreaction, but she didn't expect that he would drive her away directly. Master, this subordinate, scram. Don't force me to kill you. A murderous intent flashed across Bai Su's eyes. His voice was filled with intense anger and he could not suppress it. Master. Jin Yu smiled. Her smile was beautiful and moving, and her beautiful eyes were surging with a firm light. You once brought me back and used medicinal herbs to cultivate me. The purpose was to let me restore your strength. But now, you haven't let me take a medicinal bath for a long time. Chapter 13:16. Bai Su's gaze became colder and colder, filled with an eerie chill. Looking at the man's cold eyes, Jin Yu could not help but shiver. She bit her pale lips and said nothing. Put on your clothes and let's go. Bai Su was no longer angry with Jin Yu. He slowly stood up from the stone and leaned against the tree behind him with his slightly staggered body. But, his cold expression made Jin Yu even more flustered. She knelt on the ground with a bang and said anxiously, My lord, I know I was wrong. Please don't chase me away. Jin Yu, don't force me to do anything to you. Bai Su took a deep breath and gently closed his eyes. He clenched his fists so tightly that they made a cracking sound. He was obviously extremely angry. Jin Yu slowly stood up from the ground and her lips curled into a self-deprecating smile. My lord, you don't want to touch me, because of Yun Luofeng? Suddenly, Bai Su opened his eyes. His sword-like eyes shot towards Jin Yu and he said sternly, what nonsense are you talking about? My lord, don't you know if I'm talking nonsense or not? Jin Yu's face was pale. That's right. Yun Luofeng is not only beautiful, but also talented and excellent. How can you not be tempted by such a woman? Perhaps my lord wanted to use Yun Luofeng in the beginning, but later on, you got to know her more and became more obsessed with her? Am I right? Shut up. Bai Su angrily stopped Jin Yu's words. I've always just wanted to use her. If you dare to make any more wild guesses, don't blame me for killing you right now. Jin Yu smiled gently. Her smile was beautiful, but it was filled with sorrow. Even if my lord wants my life, so what if I give it to my lord? My life was saved by you, my lord. All these years, I've followed you without any other request. I'll do my best to get the woman you want for you. If my lord hadn't been seriously injured this time, I wouldn't have violated you. So, I don't regret it. Whoosh. A fierce wind blew toward Jin Yu. Bai Su's palm tightly grasped her neck, and a dense light flashed in her evil eyes. Jin Yu's body trembled. She closed her eyes tightly and her lips curled into a smile. To be able to die in the hands of the Lord, she had no regrets. Bai Su's grip became more and more forceful. He only needed to exert a little more strength and the young girl in front of him would die here. But, in the end, he loosened his fingers. With a wave of his sleeves, a force hit Jin Yu's body. In an instant, Jin Yu's body flew out and fell to the ground in a sorry state. I never want to see you again in this life. After that, his figure flashed and quickly disappeared in front of Jin Yu. However, Bai Su did not leave for long. He stopped 100 meters away and punched the ancient tree beside him. I like Yun Luofeng. How is this possible? Bai Su sneered and his devilishly charming face curled into a mocking smile. For 1,000 years, no one has been able to move my heart. Just Yun Luofeng alone doesn't have this ability. However, Yun Luofeng is much stronger than his mother, Bai Ling. He had wanted to use Yun Luofeng from the beginning. It was like this in the past and it will be like this in the future. Fall in love with her? It would never be possible. Bai Su looked behind him at the thought of this. After seeing that Jin Yu did not follow, he quickly disappeared into the forest again. Chapter 13:17. The sun was high up in the sky. A streak of fiery light flashed across the sky, dyeing the sky red like a flame. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, several figures descended from the sky and stood in front of the woman in red. The woman in red raised her brow and swept her domineering gaze across the people blocking her way. She then cried out in a stern voice, "Get out of the way. My lady, we've finally found you. The continent lord has asked for you to return." A few people were unwilling to obey the woman in red's orders and continued to block her way as they replied respectfully. "Get out of the way." The woman in red berated them coldly. Her fiery red robes ignited her temper like gunpowder. "My lady." An elderly voice rang out from behind the crowd. An old man dressed in green robes slowly stepped forward with a kind smile on his face. "My lady, you've been away for a few years now. I wonder if you're willing to return to the East Continent with us?" The woman in red's expression gradually sank as she stared coldly at the old man in front of her. "Even you're here. It seems that he's determined to force me to return. My lady, the continent lord is doing this for your own good." "Enough." Seeing that the old man was about to say something else, the woman in red cut him off. "I'll return to the East Continent, but I don't want anyone to restrict my freedom." The woman in red waved her sleeves. Her peerless features were cold and distant and her eyes were so cold that it made one's heart tremble. The old man shook his head in exasperation. In order to escape her marriage, the lady had fled from the East Continent to the West Continent and had even sneaked into the West Continent Academy. If it had not been for a coincidence, they would never have known that the lady would hide in a place like this. Indeed, based on the lady's talents, a place like the West Continent Academy would not be worthy of her attention. However, that was the only place that would be unexpected. By the way, my lady, I've heard that you've been looking for someone recently. Is that right? The old man's eyes darted back and forth as he asked. The woman in red swept her sharp gaze towards the old man. This is my private matter, it's none of your business. If these people were to find out who she was looking for, they would certainly use every possible means to find Yun Luofeng and force her to go to the Continent Lord's mansion. However, this was not what she wanted. West Continent. The border was desolate. It was like an ancient battlefield, with no signs of human habitation other than the smoke of gunpowder. Yun Luofeng will reach the East Continent after passing this place. Are we really going there? Hu Li was a little hesitant as he carefully looked at Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows. What's the matter with the East Continent? This. Hu Li smiled bitterly as he shook his head. Before the elders left, they told me that some time ago, someone from the East Continent came to look for the number 1 genius on the heaven leaderboard. Therefore, I guessed that she should be from the East Continent. Since we've come to the East Continent, we might bump into her. Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes. The East Continent is so big. I might not meet her. Hu Li thought about it and agreed, so he did not stop Yun Luofeng. Suddenly, he caught a glimpse of a small figure hidden in the sand in front of him. He was stunned for a moment before he involuntarily walked forward and used his fingers to dig away the sand, revealing a small figure. Yun Luofeng, there's a child here. Children? A hint of suspicion flashed across Yun Luofeng's eyes as he looked in Hu Li's direction. He saw a young child lying in the sand. He was wearing a blood-stained robe that did not fit him. At this moment, the boy was frowning and his dirty little face showed a pained expression. Chapter 13:18. Master, this child's body has the aura of the fruit of the soul. The fruit of the soul? Yun Luofeng was stunned and looked at the boy with an even more solemn expression. This child's body doesn't have any spiritual energy fluctuations, so why is he here? And why does he have the aura of the fruit of the soul? As he spoke, Hu Li had already carried the boy out of the sand and quickly walked towards Yun Luofeng. This child seems to have suffered quite a serious injury. Yun Luofeng, your medical skills are excellent, can you think of a way to save him? Yun Luofeng thought for a moment and gently nodded, his injuries are not a problem, I'll just feed him a spiritual herb. Hu Li, we'll go to the inn later. Help him change his clothes first. She was determined to obtain the fruit of the soul. She would not let go of even the slightest bit of information. Fortunately, this place was not too far from the East Continent. Based on their speed, they could reach it in 2 hours. Although this place was at the border of the 2 continents, there were quite a number of inns. It was obvious that many people would often come to the border to hunt spiritual beasts. At this moment, Yun Luofeng was sitting on a chair in the inn. She held a cup of tea in her hand and languidly sipped it. Suddenly, a hand pushed open the room door and Hu Li walked in with a half-grown boy. The boy had washed the dust off his face and had changed into a clean silver robe. He looked young and adorable. His pink, jade-carved face was still filled with nervousness as he timidly watched Yun Luofeng, who was sitting in the room. I've already washed him clean. Hu Li stroked the boy's head and her lips curled into a smile. She then raised her head to look at Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng put down the teacup in her hand and lowered her eyes to stare at the person in front of her. Your name? The boy looked at her weakly and spoke in a voice as soft as an ant. I don't remember. Don't remember? Yun Luofeng raised her brows and asked. The little boy nodded with a weak and pitiful expression on his face. I don't remember anything. Can you take me in? I promise I won't cause you any trouble. He bit his lip and his large eyes were filled with tears. He looked like he had been bullied. Then who injured you? Yun Luofeng continued to ask. The little boy seemed to recall some horrifying images. Fear surfaced in his eyes. He hugged his head tightly and squatted on the ground in pain. It's a bandit. Those bandits wanted to capture me as a male pet. I didn't agree, so they injured me. The boy's skin was soft and tender, and he looked like he was carved from jade. It was indeed easy to attract the attention of some perverts. But, perhaps Yun Luofeng was overthinking things, but he felt that his appearance was not just a coincidence. Go and rest first. Yun Luofeng lazily stretched his body and said evilly. All right. The little boy nodded obediently. He looked at Yun Luofeng one last time, then turned and walked out the door. Bang! After he left, Yun Luofeng waved his hand and smashed the door. Huli, watch her. Her voice sank and she said coldly, however, no matter what he does, you must not stop him. I want to see what his goal is. As for why Yun Luofeng did not chase him away, that was because the aura of the fruit of souls on the boy's body was real and reliable. She wanted to find the fruit of souls through this boy. You're saying that there's something wrong with this boy? Huli looked at Yun Luofeng with some surprise. Chapter 13:19. Yun Luofeng shook her head. I didn't say that there's anything wrong with him. This is just my guess. I hope that my guess is wrong. No matter what, Huli, you must keep a close eye on him. In this world, there were not many people she could trust. She would not simply trust a stranger whom she had never met. I understand. Huli nodded seriously. I'll keep an eye on him. I'll report to you if anything happens. You can leave too. Yun Luofeng held the back of his head with both hands and closed his eyes as if he was tired. Huli did not say anything else and left the room. After he left, Yun Luofeng opened her eyes. A light flashed across her eyes. Little Mo, did you notice anything wrong with that child? Little Mo shook his head. I couldn't sense anything wrong. Little Mo's sensitivity was the strongest. If even he could not sense anything wrong, could it be that she had guessed wrongly? I've already asked Huli to keep an eye on him. If there's anything wrong with him, Huli will sense it. If he's here with ulterior motives, I won't let him off. Yun Luofeng slowly rose from the chair and walked towards the large bed. I hope that I can find the fruit of the soul soon and help Xiaobai recover. Next, I'll look for Yun Xiao. She had a feeling that Yun Xiao was hiding something from her. Therefore, she had to find that man no matter what. No matter how great the difficulty was, they must face it together. The night was like water. The silence was alluring. Yun Luofeng sensed that the door to her room had been pushed open. She raised her brows but did not make a sound. A hand grabbed onto her blanket, and then slowly reached into it. Yun Luofeng finally could not hold it in any longer and raised her hand to grab a small hand. Suddenly, she opened her eyes and her sharp gaze swept towards the little boy in front of the bed. She asked in a cold voice, "What are you doing?" The little boy was stunned. He looked at Yun Luofeng aggrievedly and tears almost fell from his eyes. I want to sleep with you. Yun Luofeng gently narrowed her eyes. I'm sorry, only my man can sleep on my bed. Even if you're just a child, there's no room for you. The boy lowered his head. His expression was one of despair and sorrow, as if he had suffered a great injury. You're very similar to my mother. I couldn't hold back just now, so, a dangerous light flashed in Yun Luofeng's eyes. Didn't you lose your memory? The boy's head was still lowered, so no one could see the expression on that adorable young face. I don't remember the past, but I have my mother's portrait. I'm sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. Creak. At this moment, the door was opened again. Huli pretended not to know anything and stepped in from outside the room. He seemed to have not woken up yet and yawned lazily. Why are you in Yun Luofeng's room? Let's go back to sleep. The boy allowed Huli to pull him out of the room. The instant he walked out of the room, he turned his head and looked at Yun Luofeng once more. His eyes were filled with longing and reluctance to part with him. If it was an ordinary person who met such a handsome boy, they would definitely not be able to control their motherly love. Unfortunately, Yun Luofeng was not an ordinary person. In front of this boy, her state of mind had never changed. Chapter 13:20. Not long after Huli left with the boy, he appeared in the room again. Just now, I sensed this guy sneaking out, so I followed him. I didn't expect him to come directly to your room. I know your strength, so I didn't act rashly. I wanted to see what he wanted to do. Huli looked at Yun Luofeng seriously and explained why he had appeared so late. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows. That's right. Continue to monitor him. Huli hesitated for a moment. Yun Luofeng, don't you have a hamster? Using that hamster to monitor him would probably be better than me. Why did you? I don't know why, but I don't feel safe letting Milk Tea monitor him. After saying this, Yun Luofeng fell silent. No one knew what he was thinking. Huli's eyes narrowed. Actually, I think he really misses his mother. That's why he came to find you. This boy doesn't seem to have any strength and looks harmless. He shouldn't be in any danger. Hearing this, Yun Luofeng smiled. She slowly stood up and said, Huli, you can't judge a person by their appearance. Do you understand? The more harmless he is, the more sinister he might be. I, Yun Luofeng, have lived to this day because I don't trust anyone. Back when she was still in Huaxia, she had experienced a broken family. Her kind-looking uncle had adopted her, but after receiving the property left behind by her parents, his face immediately changed. As for her, she had been sent to an orphanage. Those children who appeared obedient and sensible in front of others liked to torture others behind their backs. Because of this, she didn't trust anyone. Even if the other party was just a harmless child. Huli was silent for a moment, then nodded. I understand. I will continue to watch him and won't let him do anything threatening. Go and rest. We still have to hurry on our journey tomorrow. Yun Luofeng waved his hand and lay down on the bed again. Huli's heart had already become clear. He also understood why Yun Luofeng was so cautious. He glanced at Yun Luofeng gratefully and walked out of the room. On this mainland, one had to be vigilant at all times. Otherwise, one could lose their life at any time. The next day. Dawn. Huli and the little boy had been waiting at Yun Luofeng's door for a long time. When he saw the door open, the little boy's black eyes flashed with joy. However, when he thought of Yun Luofeng's attitude towards him last night, his expression became incomparably timid. Yun Luofeng's gaze moved from Huli's body to the boy. He carefully examined the boy's harmless face. You said yesterday that you lost your memory and probably forgot your own name. How about this, from now on, your name is Nothing? Nothing? Confusion flashed through the boy's eyes, as if he did not understand the meaning of this name. Yun Luofeng clearly didn't want to explain any further, but her lips curled into an evil smile. Huli, he looks like he's carved from jade. When the day comes that we don't have enough money to spend, we'll sell him to a brothel. Little Mo, who was coaxing the small tree in his soul, suddenly heard Yun Luofeng's words and his face darkened. Master, you have a special liking for brothels? The first time she saw Yun Xiao, she also wanted to sell her to a brothel. Yun Luofeng, Huli's mouth twitched. This doesn't seem to be a good idea, right? Chapter 13:21. Yun Luofeng glanced at him. I don't keep idle people. If he wants to follow me, he must be of some use. Otherwise, I'll sell him to a brothel immediately. Hearing Yun Luofeng's words, the little boy immediately panicked. His bright eyes flashed with panic, and a pitiful expression hung on his pitiful face. I can wash and cook, and I can take care of pets. Don't sell me to a brothel, okay? He originally wanted to hug Yun Luofeng's leg, but thinking of the girl's coldness, he couldn't help but stop in his tracks. He only looked at her with those pitiful eyes, afraid that she would really sell him to a brothel in a fit of anger. In reality, Huli could already tell that Yun Luofeng was joking. If she really did not want to take this little boy in, she would not have let him stay, and would not have sent him to keep an eye on him. Unfortunately, no matter where Yun Luofeng went, he would always meet people who liked to meddle in other people's business. There's actually such a cruel person in this world, willing to sell such a cute child? A young man's angry voice sounded from the side. Little girl, won't you be struck by lightning for doing this? Hu Li's face darkened, and she coldly glanced at the young man who was slowly walking over. The moment she saw the young man, her expression turned even uglier. Wang Junfei, why are you here? Oh, I was wondering who it was. So it's the trash from the West Continent College, ha ha ha. Wang Junfei laughed out loud. I was just guessing. Who could be so heartless to such an extent? It's actually someone from the Western Continent Academy. That's right, other than your Western Continent Academy, who else would be so poor as to sell their children? Hearing the conversation between the two, Yun Luofeng glanced at Hu Li. You know him? Hu Li coldly snorted. He's from the East Continent College. We've met before and even fought. However, he lost to me, so he has always harbored a grudge and wants to seek revenge on me. Wang Junfei's expression turned cold. Harbored a grudge? What right do you have to make me hold a grudge? Our East Continent College gathers geniuses from various forces, unlike the West Continent, where someone with a family background like yours can actually enter. The East Continent College was an elite college, and the enrollment fee was ridiculously high, which caused many ordinary people to shrink back. However, the Western Continent Academy was different. As long as one's strength met the standard, anyone could enter. Don't get in our way, scram. Hu Li shouted coldly as a cold light flashed across his fox eyes. If you insist on not leaving, that means, you want to get beaten up again. Wang Junfei's eyes darkened as he sneered and said, Hu Li, I'm indeed no match for you, but so what? I'm not like you, Ziren Yisheng. This time, I brought people with me. Do you think that you alone can beat me? What a joke. Men, go and capture these people for me. Looking at the two middle-aged men who were slowly walking forward, Hu Li's face gradually darkened. Wang Junfei was nothing to him, but there was an expert from the Wang family here. Suddenly, a hand landed on Wang Junfei's body. The young girl stepped forward, and a smile appeared on her beautiful face. Are you people who want to beat up my people? Wang Junfei narrowed his eyes. Who do you think you are? How dare you talk to me like that? I will settle the matter of you abducting and selling children with you later. Right now, I am looking for the people from the Western Continent Academy. Chapter 1322. Yun Luofeng smiled faintly. Sorry, I'm also from the Western Continent College, so, do I have the right to fight with you? Wang Junfei scoffed coldly and waved his hand. What are you waiting for? Fight? In Wang Junfei's eyes, Yun Luofeng was nothing. He was probably another person who had been seduced by Hu Li. What a pity, such a peerless beauty had actually followed a pauper like Hu Li. That's right, in Wang Junfei's eyes, Hu Li was a pauper. Even if he was ranked 10th on the Western Continent College's heaven list, even if he was valued by the college, he still could not compare to the powerful Wang family. With the Wang family's strength, wouldn't it be a matter of minutes to crush him? Just as Wang Junfei finished speaking, the young girl's figure suddenly disappeared into thin air. Before he could return to his senses, she had already appeared in front of him. Bang! With a kick, Wang Junfei, who was standing between the two burly men, was kicked out and he tumbled down the stairs in an extremely sorry state. The Wang family's experts were stunned, but they quickly reacted and surrounded Yun Luofeng. Hu Li stood by her side and faced the enemy in front of them together with her. Kill them, kill them. Wang Junfei no longer cared that these two people were from the Western Continent College. He stood up and roared angrily. His eyes were bloodshot, like a jackal, a tiger, or a leopard. The two burly men immediately moved. Their fists were wrapped in spiritual power and like a storm, they attacked Yun Luofeng and Hu Li. He looked helplessly at Yun Luofeng and Hu Li. He bit his lips tightly and did not make a sound. What happened? Suddenly, a low shout came from outside the door, causing Wang Junfei, who was already in a bad mood, to fly into a rage. Unrelated people, get out of my sight. Don't provoke me. The footsteps stopped in front of Wang Junfei. After that, he heard an aged voice, and it was filled with rage. Are you sure you want me to get out? Wang Junfei frowned and was just about to turn around to teach this ungrateful old man a lesson when he suddenly saw the guard beside the old man take out a token and wave it in front of Wang Junfei. On the token, the words, "Continent Lord's Mansion," shone brightly, causing Wang Junfei's expression to change instantly. You are from the Prefecture Lord's Mansion?" He swallowed his saliva with some difficulty, and his eyes were filled with horror. He had offended someone from the Continent Lord's Mansion. The old man said coldly, "Now, can you tell me what happened here?" "It's like this." Wang Junfei suppressed the fear in his heart. "These two people are from the Western Continent Academy, and they even boldly provoked the Eastern Continent, and even claimed that the Eastern Continent is inferior to the Western Continent. Most importantly, they dared to insult the Prefecture Master's mansion of the East Continent." Wang Junfei, who was originally filled with fear, spoke more and more smoothly, pushing all the blame onto Yun Luofeng. "Oh right, the man among the two is called Hu Li. He is a member of the Western Continent Academy's Heaven Ranking. The 10 disciples of the Heaven Ranking are all trash. Besides, I heard that the top 10 disciples of the Heaven Ranking are planning to join forces to destroy the academies of the Eastern Continent, and raise the Continent Lord's Mansion to the ground." "Oh." Suddenly, a woman's voice rang out from the back of the crowd. When Wang Junfei raised his head, he saw a woman dressed in red walking out. She raised her eyebrows and spoke in a domineering voice. "Are you sure that the 10 disciples of the Western Continent really spread such rumors?" Wang Junfei thought about the woman's identity. Since she was walking with the people of the Continent Lord's Mansion, she must be from the Continent Lord's Mansion. "My young miss is asking you a question, hurry up and answer." The old man saw that Wang Junfei did not speak and shouted coldly, "Young miss?" Wang Junfei was stunned. This beauty was the eldest young miss of the Continent Lord's Mansion? Thinking of this, Wang Junfei did not dare to hesitate and hurriedly said, "That's right, this matter is absolutely true. Eldest young miss, you must bring people to destroy that arrogant Western Continent Academy. The Western Continent Academy should not exist in the first place." Now that the eldest young miss has heard these people belittling the Continent Lord's Mansion, she would definitely kill the 10 disciples of the Heaven Ranking. If the Western Continent Academy did not have the Heaven Ranking, it would be completely useless. Therefore, this was the reason why Wang Junfei had implicated the 10 disciples of the Heaven Ranking. Originally, he could have only framed Hu Li alone, but in order to destroy the Western Continent Academy, he claimed that the words were spread by the 10 people of the Heaven Ranking. Unfortunately, Wang Junfei did not know that he had made a huge mistake. The red-clothed woman curled her lips. Her voice was like that of a demon, causing Wang Junfei's heart to tremble. "I'm sorry, I'm also a member of the Western Continent Academy, and I'm also at the top of the Heaven Ranking." Chapter 13:23. Wang Junfei was stunned. His face turned pale from his initial shock as he stared at the woman in red in terror. What did she just say? That there was nothing wrong with my ears? The woman in red sneered. She did not look at Wang Junfei again as she walked towards Yun Luofeng in the corridor. Hu Li had just repelled the enemy in front of him when he suddenly saw the woman in red walking towards him. His body trembled in fear and he almost dropped the sword in his hand. "You! Why are you here?" His eyes were filled with panic as he wailed in his heart. He had thought that the East Continent was so vast that it was impossible for him to meet this lunatic. Who would have thought that? He would meet her in a place like this. The woman in red's gaze never stopped on Hu Li. Her gaze landed on Yun Luofeng and she gently raised the corners of her lips. "Yun Luofeng?" Yun Luofeng stopped what he was doing and stared deeply at the woman in red who had appeared in front of him. The number 1 genius of the West Continent Institute, Hong Wan. Hong Wan smiled. "Number 1 genius? If you hadn't appeared, I would have been able to take on this title. But now, I feel that this title suits you better. Yun Luofeng, I've long heard of you and I'd like to see your strength. I wonder if you're willing to fight? Some battles were destined to be unavoidable." "All right." Yun Luofeng raised his brows slightly. "I accept your challenge." Whoosh. The woman in red raised her hand and a long sword appeared out of thin air in her hand. She had never underestimated Yun Luofeng's strength from the beginning. Hence, she did not hold back and took the initiative to attack. A sharp gust of wind from the sword swept past and the doors of the inn were affected. They collapsed and turned into ruins. Yun Luofeng did not hesitate and met his opponent's attack head-on. It's over, my inn. The inn owner cried bitterly as he watched the battle between the two. His expression was even more sorrowful than if his parents had died. The old man frowned and swept his cold gaze across the inn owner. He then took out a silver note from his sleeve and tossed it at him. The Continent Lord's palace has bought this inn. You can do whatever you want with it. As for the rest of you, leave immediately. The innkeeper was originally heartbroken over the destruction of his inn, but he didn't expect that the people from the Continent Lord's mansion would be so generous, casually giving him a banknote with a face value of 10,000 taels. He was deeply grateful and repeatedly thanked them before turning around and leaving. Wang Junjie's eyes turned slightly. He planned to take advantage of the chaos to sneak out of here. Just as he took a step forward, a hand reached out from behind and grabbed his clothes. You can't leave yet. Wang Junjie fiercely swallowed a mouthful of saliva and laughed awkwardly. Sir, as the saying goes, the ignorant are not guilty. I did not know that Eldest Miss is a student of the Western Continent Academy, so, the old man's cold eyes swept over Wang Junjie. The killing intent in his eyes caused Wang Junjie's heart to tremble. He hurriedly shut his mouth and obediently stayed in the inn, not daring to take another step out. Boom! The corridor collapsed, and the two of them fell into the hall from the corridor. The sword chi was like a rainbow, rampaging everywhere. The tables and chairs were all thrown to the ground, and it was a complete mess. The woman in red took 2 steps back and stood amidst the dust that filled the sky. Her mesmerizing phoenix eyes narrowed slightly and her red lips curled into a domineering angle. Yun Luofeng, you didn't use your true abilities. Chapter 1324. She raised her head slightly and looked at the beautiful woman standing in front of her, and the reason why I challenge you is because I want to see your true power. Yun Luofeng glanced at the woman in red and kept her sword. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. The woman in red's voice was confident and loud. I'm confident that I can defeat you. Boom! Countless vines appeared on the ground around Yun Luofeng. These vines seemed to be alive as they wrapped themselves around Hong Wuan. Hong Wuan's eyes flashed with battle intent. This was the only way things would be interesting, right? If her opponent was too weak, she would lose the desire to fight. Boom! Yun Luofeng was very fast. Like a gust of wind, she passed through the vines and arrived in front of Hong Wuan. Her fist was wrapped in a layer of powerful energy as she punched fiercely towards Hong Wuan's chest. When Hong Wuan saw that Yun Luofeng had thrown away his weapon, she also threw the sword in her hand onto the ground. Her domineering laughter echoed throughout the entire inn. Ha, Yun Luofeng, I didn't come back to the East Continent for nothing this time. Bang! Their fists collided in the air and it was like a bomb had exploded, stirring up a strong storm. Her hair danced in the wind, and she looked indescribably enchanting and peerless. Huli was stunned. She stared blankly at the young girl standing in front of Hong Wuan as a look of surprise flashed across her eyes. Yun Luofeng's power seemed to be at the high-level Holy Spirit stage, while Hong Wuan had already reached the mid-level Holy King. However, she had actually faced Hong Wuan's attack head-on. In reality, what Huli did not know was that the vines had disturbed Hong Wuan, giving Yun Luofeng the opportunity to attack her. On top of that, Yun Luofeng had been trapped in the celestial spirit mirror for 3 months, causing her body to be stronger than an ordinary person's. If the two of them had fought with weapons, Yun Luofeng might not have been Hong Wuan's match. However, Hong Wuan had chosen to fight Yun Luofeng with her fists. This also allowed Yun Luofeng to have the ability to resist Hong Wuan. The time that the two of them had fought might not have been long in the eyes of others, but to them, it had exhausted all their energy. Logically speaking, with Yun Luofeng having so many medicinal herbs, it should be easy for her to recover her strength. Unfortunately, in this battle, she did not know how to cheat. This caused the two of them to lose their strength at the same time, collapsing to the ground. Hong Wan's forehead was dripping with sweat, but her face was curved into a charming smile. She turned to look at Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng, you are stronger than I imagined. It's been a long time since I've had such a good fight. Let's fight again after I recover. Yun Luofeng smiled faintly. Okay. Ha ha ha. Hong Wan could not help but laugh maniacally. Her eyes were curved and her eyes were filled with joy. At this moment, Yun Luofeng had already taken out a piece of blood ginseng and placed it in his mouth. He then gave another piece to Hong Wan, who was next to him. Hong Wan was stunned. She took the blood ginseng and popped it into her mouth. When the blood ginseng entered her mouth, she felt the strength in her body gradually recovering. Thank you. She leapt up from the ground and extended her hand towards Yun Luofeng. Let me introduce myself again. My name is Hong Wan. The master of the East Continent is my father. Initially, I had gone to the West Continent Academy to escape from my marriage. Who would have thought that I would be discovered by this group of people? Yun Luofeng raised his brows and looked at the group of people who were following closely behind Hong Wan. The smile on his lips deepened. Yun Luofeng. Hong Wan's eyes flickered. Why don't you pretend to be my man? Chapter 1325. Yun Luofeng's face darkened. The people from the Continent Lord's residence were also stunned as they stared at the cunning Hong Wan. No way. Hu Li was the first to jump out. Yun Luofeng is a woman, how can he pretend to be your man? Hong Wan looked at him disdainfully. Just disguise as a man. I will not marry the man father has chosen for me anyway. Miss. The expressions of the people from the Continent Lord's residence changed drastically as they hurriedly tried to stop Hong Wan. Hong Wan looked at them coldly. You are not allowed to leak any information about this. If I find out that you have spread this, I will not let you off. Don't forget, father will grow old one day and I will be the one in charge of the East Continent. The woman's voice was domineering as her cold eyes swept past everyone. Yun Luofeng's expression darkened. I did not agree. Hong Wan was not as domineering as she was with the people from the Continent Lord's residence. She smiled. We are already friends. Won't you help a friend when he is in trouble? You can look for Hu Li. No. I only want you. If it had been anyone else, Yun Luofeng would have left without a word. However, she admired Hong Wan very much and felt a sense of kinship with her. All right. I agree. Yun Luofeng agreed. However, you have to do me a favor. What is it? As long as you say it, I will definitely do it. I want to find someone. His name is Yun Shao and his nickname is Ghost Emperor. The people from the Continent Lord's residence had thought that Yun Luofeng would reject their Mrs. Rude request. They never expected her to agree so readily. Their hearts trembled at the thought of their young miss bringing this woman back. They hoped that the Continent Lord did not see through them. Otherwise, they would not be able to escape. Did you hear that? Hong Wan raised her brows and turned to the people behind her. Go and find him immediately. If you can't find him, don't come back to see me. Miss, then you. The old man frowned. I will go back myself. There is no need for you to say anything. The old man laughed bitterly as he looked at the woman's cold and arrogant eyes. He had no choice but to leave with the people from the Continent Lord's residence. After everyone left, Hong Wan noticed Wang Junjie, who was trying to sneak away. You want to leave after insulting my West Continent Academy? Hong Wan sneered, how can there be such a good thing in this world? Hu Li, go beat him up for me. Let him understand that West Continent Academy has my support. Hu Li seemed to be very afraid of Hong Wan and did not dare to disobey her orders at all. In addition, he had endured Wang Junjie for a long time. He immediately rushed up and beat him until he cried out in pain. He did not look like a human, nor did he look like a ghost. Yun Luofeng glanced at Wang Junjie, who was wailing in pain under Hu Li's rage. His evil eyes gradually fell on Hong Wan. When are we leaving? Hong Wan stroked her chin. Let's go, I'll bring you to change into men's clothes. After that, we'll set off for the Continent Lord's mansion. The streets were messy and noisy with people coming and going. In the silk shop, Hong Wan was waiting anxiously at the entrance. Not long after, a beautiful youth dressed in white appeared in front of her. Her eyes instantly lit up. The youth was devastatingly beautiful and his evil lips were curled into a smile. His posture was languid and demonic, filled with an indescribable charm. Chapter 13:26. Yun Luofeng, I didn't think that you would look so perfect in men's clothes. TSK, if you were really a man, I would definitely fall in love with you. Hong Wan circled around Yun Luofeng, and the more she looked, the happier she became. Just as she had said, when Yun Luofeng appeared in the crowd, those women could not take their eyes off her. Huli was also stunned. She did not know that Yun Luofeng was so devastatingly beautiful and peerless even in men's clothes. The heavens were really unfair. They had given her a flawless face and also gifted her with peerless talent. Such a person was like a darling of the heavens who had been doted on by thousands for a lifetime. Yun Luofeng saw the stunned and dazed look in Hong Wan's eyes. She smiled evilly and gently lifted her chin with her finger. Hong Wan, remember what you promised me. Hong Wan returned to her senses and slapped Yun Luofeng's hand away. She glared at her. Do you really think of yourself as a man? And you're even teasing me? I heard that you're already married and your husband is an extremely overbearing jealous jar. I don't want your husband to find me and think that I'm taking advantage of his wife. After saying this, Hong Wan hurriedly turned around. She gently patted her burning cheeks and exhaled heavily. If Yun Luofeng was really a man, she would definitely be bewitched by her. Of course, the prerequisite was that she had already let go of that person in her heart. Let's go. Yun Luofeng stretched lazily. Aren't you in a hurry to return to the Continent Lord's residence? I can help you settle this matter earlier. Hong Wan nodded. The journey to the Continent Lord's residence is not very far from here. We can reach it in a day. Yun Luofeng, no matter what happens, I will definitely protect you. This was her promise to her. It was a promise that could only be made once, but she had fulfilled it for a lifetime. Yun Luofeng. Huli walked in front of Yun Luofeng. I think that when you're dressed as a man, don't smile at women casually. Otherwise, when the time comes, young Master Yun Shao will not only have to face his male love rivals but also some female love rivals. Will he be able to handle them all? Yun Luofeng shrugged. I'm just joking. Besides, do you think that Hong Wan is the kind of person who isn't mentally strong enough? If Hong Wan's mind wasn't strong enough, she wouldn't have been able to reach this stage. Huli understood this point and hurriedly followed behind Yun Luofeng, stepping into the distance. East Continent. In the Continent Lord's mansion, a middle-aged man sat on a chair. His eyes were cold and his expression was solemn. The first miss hasn't returned yet? Continent Lord, the eldest miss is already on her way back to the city. She should be back soon. Just as this person finished speaking, a figure rushed in from outside the door and said in surprise, Continent Lord, eldest young miss, she's back. What? The Continent Lord, who originally had a serious expression, upon hearing this, instantly stood up. An imperceptible joy flashed across his eyes, and then he became extremely serious. I'd like to ask her where she has been all these years. She doesn't even return home. After saying this, the Continent Lord led a group of people out of the hall. Suddenly, before he could even take a step forward, that fiery red dress had already appeared in front of him. Father, I'm back. Hong Wan raised her head and looked at the Continent Lord as she spoke slowly. The Continent Lord was just about to speak when her next sentence caused his expression to change on the spot. Chapter 13:27. Father, I've returned this time to announce something. Hong Wan hooked the hand of the young man next to her and her red lips curled into a sly smile. This is my man, Yun Luofeng. In the beginning, the Continent Lord's gaze had been fixed on his precious daughter. Now that he heard this, his expression changed greatly and he turned to look at the young man who was standing next to Hong Wan. The young man was dressed in white robes and was incomparably handsome. There seemed to be an evil smile in his pitch-black eyes. With just one glance, one would be deeply attracted to his black eyes. Danger. That's right. In the Continent Lord's eyes, Yun Luofeng was both beautiful and dangerous. His evil was impossible to guard against and the smile on his face was cold. The Continent Lord's expression sank. Luoner, don't mess around. I've already chosen a fiancé for you. You have to marry him even if you don't want to. Father, Hong Luan laughed icily. Why do you insist on me marrying him? Is it because he's the young master of the North Continent's Continent Lord's mansion? Have you ever thought about whether I'll be happy if I marry him? The Continent Lord frowned and said helplessly, Luoner, I believe that you'll be happy if you marry him. Furthermore, haven't you two had a good relationship since you were young? Why are you so against becoming his wife now? Father, you don't have to say anything else. I'll only marry Yun Luofeng. I won't marry any other man. Hong Luan threw out these domineering words and pulled Yun Luofeng away. The Continent Lord flew into a rage. Luoner, stop right there. Hong Luan stopped in her tracks and lowered her eyelids to hide the coldness in her eyes. Sir Yun, the Continent Lord looked at Yun Luofeng and said politely, Luoner is the young lady of the East Continent's Continent Lord's mansion. She's destined to marry someone from another Continent Lord's mansion. With your good looks, you can easily win the hearts of other women. Why bother pestering my daughter? In other words, Yun Luofeng had used his good looks to bewitch Hong Luan. Hong Luan's eyes were filled with anger. Just as she was about to retort, the young man next to her suddenly grabbed her hand and gently patted it. Yun Luofeng raised his black eyes and looked at the Continent Lord's ashen face. No one can stop Hong Luan from marrying someone she doesn't want to. The youth's voice was loud and clear, filled with a domineering aura. After saying these words, she grabbed Hong Luan's arm and slowly walked out of the hall under the astonished gazes of the crowd. The scenery of the Continent Lord's mansion was pleasing to the eye. Yun Luofeng pulled Hong Luan along the corridor in the backyard before stopping. Hong Luan turned her head and looked at the perfect side profile of the youth beside her. She said sincerely, Yun Luofeng, thank you. If you were really a man, I would definitely want to marry you. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows. If I were a man, I would also only marry a person named Yun Shao. If she was a woman, she would marry Yun Shao. If she was a man, she would definitely marry him. In this lifetime, the only person she had set her sights on was Yun Shao. Puchi. Hong Luan could not help but laugh. Her eyes and brows curved into crescents. I really envy the relationship between you and your husband. In this lifetime, all I want is a pair of people for the rest of my life. If I don't have this pair of people, I'd rather not marry and spend the rest of my life alone. She would never compromise for the sake of anyone. Yun Luofeng was about to speak when he saw the sorrow on Hong Luan's face. But at that moment, a joyful voice rang out from the front. Chapter 1328. Luan, you're back. Hong Luan's body suddenly froze. She took a deep breath and hooked her arm around Yun Luofeng's. Her beautiful face revealed a smile as she looked at the person walking towards them. Long time no see, Ling Chen. It was a handsome man dressed in brocaded robes that accentuated his noble aura. He held a folding fan in his hand and had a graceful demeanor. He looked like a noble young master who had not been tainted by the filth of the world. Hong Luan, this is. Ling Chen turned to look at Yun Luofeng and frowned. His tone was filled with dissatisfaction. Hong Luan was full of smiles, but no emotions could be seen on her face. Even so, Yun Luofeng could feel that Hong Luan had tightened her grip on his arm. My man, Yun Luofeng. Hong Luan's words caused Ling Chen's handsome face to darken. Luan, don't forget that I'm your fiancé. Fiancé? Hong Luan sneered, don't you already have a woman you love? Since you love her so deeply, you should take responsibility for her. Why do you still want to marry me? Ling Chen's expression did not look too good. He seemed to have thought of the woman he had given his heart to, and a trace of helplessness flashed in his eyes. Luan, our marriage was decided by our fathers. I can't defy them. However, my father promised me that Chu will be my concubine, and only you will be my official wife. Luan, I'm also very helpless. I hope you can understand. Hong Wan sneered, don't you think that your actions will hurt the woman you love? No, Luan, you don't understand. Chu, is very kind. In order to not make things difficult for me, she has already agreed to marry me. However, out of guilt towards her, I will first let her be my concubine. It is because of her understanding that I came to propose marriage. Ling Chen hurriedly explained, afraid that Hong Wan would reject the marriage. If she rejected, then his father would definitely not allow Chu, to marry him. Hong Wan's eyes became even colder. You feel guilty towards Xia Chu, but not towards me? Why would I? Luan, you are the official wife, and she is only a concubine. Her position is below yours, so I feel guilty towards her. As for you, I have given you the most important position, so how could I owe you anything? Scram. Hong Wan's heart was filled with anger. Get lost. I will never marry a scum like you. Luan, Ling Chen panicked and wanted to go and pull Hong Wan back. However, before he could take a few steps, he was blocked by a snow-white figure. Yun Luofeng tightly gripped Ling Chen's hand, a cold look in his eyes. Hong Wan is one of my people. If you dare to touch her, I'll immediately cripple your arm. Ling Chen's eyes grew cold. Brat, Luan, isn't someone you can match. If you know what's good for you, you'll, bang. Before he could finish speaking, Hong Wan had already rushed in front of Ling Chen, and viciously kicked him in the chest, sending him flying. Ling Chen, you disappoint me. I'll treat it as if I've never met you. Scram immediately. Hong Wan's eyes were domineering and her voice was filled with anger. Also, if you insult Yun Luofeng again, I'll make you speechless immediately. Ling Chen was stunned. He and Hong Wan had known each other for many years, and this was the first time this woman had attacked him in order to protect someone else. Especially, Hong Wan had even called this pretty boy her man. Wasn't this clearly betraying him? Chapter 1329. Luan, Ling Chen angrily stood up, pointing at Yun Luofeng as he spoke to Hong Wan. Is it because you have this pretty boy that you treat me so coldly? You weren't like this in the past. 10 years ago, you said that you wanted to marry me. Pretty boy. Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes, a dangerous light flashing in his eyes. Ling Chen, Hong Wan's expression grew even colder as she stared at Ling Chen's handsome face and said icily, that's right, I did want to marry you back then, but that was 10 years ago. Do you think that because I had Yun Luofeng, I betrayed you? Wrong, the one who betrayed me was you. Ling Chen's heart was filled with rage. Luan, I'm a man. Which man doesn't have multiple wives and concubines? Women are different. Women have to be faithful to one person to the end of their life, don't you understand this? Why should a man be able to have multiple women, but a woman has to be faithful to one person to the end of her life? I, Hong Wan, have never been willing to compromise. If I can't have one person for the rest of my life, then I won't marry. That's right. Even though she had deeply liked Ling Chen before, after he had fallen in love with another woman, she had hidden this love in her heart. But now, it seemed that her choice back then had been a wise one. When she was young, she had no idea that Ling Chen was such a disgusting scumbag. Multiple wives and concubines? Yun Luofeng smirked as he evilly smiled. That's just an excuse for a man to be lecherous. What's the use of a man who can't even control his own desires? Hong Wan, it's better if you don't want this kind of person. Hong Wan coldly looked at Ling Chen. Don't bother me again, or I'll hit you every time you come. Luan, Seeing Hong Wan and Yun Luofeng turn and leave, Ling Chen anxiously cried out. However, his talent had always been inferior to Hong Wan's, and he didn't dare to offend her at a time like this. As such, he suppressed his impulses, and anxiously watched the two of them leave. At this moment, the memories of him and Hong Wan appeared in Ling Chen's mind, as well as her every frown and smile. He didn't know why, but looking at Hong Wan's figure now, He felt a sense of anxiety. "Young master," a servant hurried over. Ling Chen frowned. "What happened?" "Miss Xia's old illness has relapsed." "What?" Ling Chen's expression changed, and he immediately threw Hong Wuan to the back of his mind. His eyes were filled with anxiety. "Let's go, we need to return to the courtyard immediately." Many years ago, the two continent lords' mansions had wanted to unite by marriage. As such, the northern continent had built a courtyard in the eastern continent so that Ling Chen could come and visit them. Who would have thought that Ling Chen would fall in love with a commoner girl, and in order to break Hong Wuan's heart, she rejected the marriage and left. At this moment, in the courtyard, just as Ling Chen walked in, he heard a violent cough. This voice made his heart clench fiercely. He hurriedly pushed the door open and entered. "Chu, how are you?" Cough cough. Hearing Ling Chen's words, the woman on the bed raised her head, a weak smile on her beautiful face. "Young Master Ling, why have you come back? You should go find Lady Hong Wuan and clear up her misunderstanding. Chu's illness is not a problem, young Master Ling need not worry." The woman in front of him couldn't compare to the peerless beauty Hong Wuan. However, compared to Hong Wuan's domineering aura, this kind of weak woman was exactly what men loved. Chapter 1330. No wonder Ling Chen was so infatuated with her. Compared to Hong Wuan, you're more important. Ling Chen quickly walked over to Xia Chu and held her delicate shoulders. His eyes were filled with heartache. "If it wasn't for the fact that father promised me that he would only let you enter the family after I marry Hong Wuan, I wouldn't have married her. She's too fierce and can't compare to you, Xia Chu buried her head in Ling Chen's chest, her expression weak. "Young Master Ling, it's Chu who has wronged you. If it wasn't for Chu you and Hong Wuan would already be married. If Hong Wuan doesn't want Chu to stay, then Chu is willing to leave young master. As long as young master is well, Chu is willing to do anything." The woman raised her head, her eyes filled with tears, and her voice was so soft that it could make one's heart ache. "What nonsense are you saying? I'll never leave you in this lifetime. It's just that you've wronged me as a concubine." Ling Chen tightly rubbed Xia Chu's shoulders. "In this lifetime, the person I've wronged the most is you." Xia Chu shook her head. "No, the only person you've wronged is Miss Hong Wuan." "Wronged her?" Ling Chen coldly laughed. "Isn't it enough for me to give her the position of main wife? Why must I only have her as my only woman?" He even said that he would be with her for the rest of his life. What a joke. Especially when Hong Wuan went missing for a few years and hooked up with a pretty boy. "What?" Xia Chu covered her mouth in shock. "Miss Hong Wuan betrayed young master? She? How could she do such a despicable thing? Women are supposed to be faithful to one person and never betray their husband." After saying this, Xia Chu solemnly vowed, "Young Master Ling Chen, don't worry. I'll never do anything to let you down. It's a pity that my family background isn't strong enough, so I can't become young master's main wife. Otherwise, I'll definitely take care of my husband's residence and help him find a concubine." What she meant was that Hong Wuan had not done her duty as a main wife, and had actually stopped Ling Chen from taking a concubine. As a wife, shouldn't she help her husband take concubines and manage the residence? Even if Hong Wuan was the big miss of the continent lord's residence, and even if she didn't follow Ling Chen to the southern continent after marrying him, she still had no right to stop Ling Chen. A wife must fulfill her duties, otherwise, she would not be qualified to be a wife. If Hong Wuan was as understanding as you, then I wouldn't have to worry so much. Ling Chen sighed, his face full of helplessness. "Young Master Ling, Miss Hong Wuan must be afraid that I will fight with her for the position. How about I go and have a heart-to-heart talk with her tomorrow?" Hong Wuan said gently as she held Ling Chen's hand. Ling Chen paused. Your body isn't too good, you should, it's fine. Chu's life was saved by young master, so for young master's sake, even if I'm sick, what harm is there in going to find her?" Xia Chu looked at Ling Chen in a daze, a smile on his pale face. If it was any other man who met such a considerate and infatuated woman like Xia Chu, it would be hard for him not to be tempted. Ling Chen's heart was filled with gratitude. Chu you've done so much for me. Don't worry, I'll definitely treat you well in the future. With young master's words, Chu is relieved. Xia Chu wrapped her arms around Ling Chen's neck and kissed him. The atmosphere in the room was full of ripples, and it was full of spring. Chapter 1331. In the restaurant and tea house. Hong Wan had just walked in when the waiter came out to welcome her. He greeted her respectfully. Miss Hong Wan, you're back. While I was away, did anyone touch my room? Hong Wan glanced at the waiter and asked. This. The waiter wiped the sweat off his forehead and looked at Hong Wan carefully. Miss Hong Wan, while you were away, young Master Ling Chen brought a lady here. I didn't dare to stop young Master Ling Chen, so, Ling Chen brought a lady? A cold light flashed across Hong Wan's eyes. Her voice was domineering and soul-stirring. I don't like it when others touch my things. Throw away the tables and chairs immediately and replace them with new ones. I'll only give you 15 minutes. Don't let my friend wait too long. When the waiter heard this, he hurriedly agreed. Only then did he see the young man in white following closely behind Hong Wan. His eyes flashed with amazement. All these years, he had met many people, but he had never met a man who was so good-looking. He was even more beautiful than a woman. If you dare to look at her again, I'll poke your eyes blind. When Hong Wan saw the waiter staring at Yun Luofeng, her face immediately darkened. She shouted sternly, also, since this room has been booked by me all year round, even if I'm not here, no one else has the right to use it. If you dare to let anyone in again, you can forget about keeping this restaurant open. Yun Luofeng, let's go. Hong Wan pulled Yun Luofeng's hand and walked towards the second floor. The corners of Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a devilish smile. She did not break free from Hong Wan's arm and allowed her to pull her into the room. Bang! Hong Wan kicked open the door of the room. Her cold eyes swept across the clean and plain room. Her willowy eyebrows were raised and her eyes were filled with anger. Looks like I can't wait for the people of the restaurant to clean up. I'm not happy just looking at these tables and chairs. Whoosh! Hong Wan's sleeve stirred up a hurricane which destroyed the tables and chairs. After that, she dusted her hands and turned to face the waiter who had just arrived. Her lips curled into a smile. Remember, I've given you money to reserve this room, so this room belongs to me. Without my permission, no one is allowed to enter. Scram immediately. The waiter scurried out in fear. Not long after, a group of people took the table and chairs away and replaced them with brand new ones for Hong Wan. Yun Luofeng. Hong Wan sat down and poured a cup of tea for Yun Luofeng. She raised an eyebrow and looked at him. Do you think I am too domineering? Yun Luofeng took a sip of tea and slowly put it down. What's wrong with being domineering? If someone dislikes your character, that only proves that he doesn't love you. Furthermore, you didn't do anything wrong. Since you gave the restaurant money, they have no right to give your things to others. So, you didn't do anything wrong. Hong Wan laughed. Her eyes were filled with joy. Yun Luofeng, I think, we will become bosom friends in the future. Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes slightly. I hope so. That's right, Hong Wan, do me another favor. Say it. As long as I can help you, I will definitely help you. Soul fruit. Help me look for the soul fruit. At the same time, help me investigate the background of the child who follows me. She would never be able to compare to the power in Hong Wan's hands if she were to investigate these matters herself. Chapter 1332. That was why she had asked Hong Wan to do this for her. Hong Wan blinked. It's not just one favor, it's two. If I help you with these two favors, what do I get in return? I'll help you deal with Ling Chen. However, I don't want to go against the Northern Continent, so I'll need you to personally deal with the Northern Continent. She could help Hong Wan deal with Ling Chen, but Ling Chen was the young master of the Northern Continent. As such, Hong Wan had to personally deal with the aftermath. Deal. Hong Wan's hand slammed heavily on the table. She was unable to control her strength, and the new table was once again split in half. Hong Wan's expression was a little awkward. I accidentally used too much strength. I'll immediately ask the people in the restaurant to change the table. Also, you don't have to worry about the northern continent attacking you. I, Hong Wan, am the future successor of the eastern continent. No matter how brave the northern continent is, they won't dare to touch someone I want to protect. Yun Luofeng raised an eyebrow. Your father wants you to marry Ling Chen so much. Isn't he afraid that the eastern continent will fall into the hands of the northern continent? No, Hong Wan shook her head. My marriage with Ling Chen is just a formality. Even after we're married, I won't be able to follow him to the northern continent. I'm my father's only daughter, so I definitely want to inherit the eastern continent. However, the situation in the eastern continent is very unstable. The reason my father wants us to unite by marriage is to ensure the relationship between the two continents. One was the future continent lord of the eastern continent, while the other was the successor of the northern continent. Their union would definitely tie the two great powers together. After Hong Wan finished explaining, she coldly harumphed, my father is really muddle-headed. He thinks that a marriage can solve all problems. I, Hong Wan, don't need a marriage to ask for help. Even if I have to rely on myself, I'll still make the eastern continent last for 1,000 years. When the woman said this, the domineering look in her eyes was revealed, and her soul-stirring voice echoed in the room. Miss Hong Wan. The waiter walked in from outside, and respectfully said, the lady who came with young Master Ling Chen said that she wants to see you, Miss Hong Wan. Hong Wan was startled. Xia Chu. Why is she here? Let her in. Yun Luofeng took a sip of tea and asked, what do you think of this Xia Chu's character? I'm not sure. Hong Wan shook her head. I've only met her a few times, so I don't know her well. Furthermore, I don't have any ill feelings towards Xia Chu. It's all that scumbag Ling Chen's fault. She's also a victim. In her heart, there was only one person she hated, Ling Chen. Even though Xia Chu had obtained Ling Chen's heart, she still didn't hate her. Hong Wan had always thought that Xia Chu was just a pitiful person. After a while, a woman was led in by a waiter. The woman was dressed in a green Confucian dress with a purple belt around her waist. Her black hair fluttered in the wind, and as she walked, her figure was graceful and her slender waist could be faintly seen. After entering the room, the woman gently raised her head. It was also at this moment that Yun Luofeng clearly saw the woman's appearance. Even though her beauty could not be compared to Hong Wan's enchanting and peerless elegance, it was undeniable that this kind of gentle beauty would cause the hearts of countless men to move. Her pair of beautiful eyes were filled with faint tears, and her gentle and beautiful face was slightly pale. Her delicate and pitiful appearance made people feel pity for her. Chapter 1333. However, Yun Luofeng had met many such gentle and beautiful women over the years. Compared to such women, he preferred the domineering Hong Wan. At least Hong Wan was very real, and would never use her pitiful appearance to attract the attention of others. Thump. Xia Chu knelt down in front of Hong Wan without saying a word. Her eyes were filled with tears as she pleaded, Miss Hong Wan, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have taken young Master Ling Chen away. Actually, the person young Master Ling Chen wants to marry is you. Please give him a chance. I beg you. At this moment, there were many people walking to and fro outside the box. Now that they heard Xia Chu's words, they could not help but stop in their tracks and look over. Hong Wan's expression gradually became cold. To be honest, I pitied you before. After all, you were also harmed by Ling Chen, and he couldn't marry you. But now, I won't pity you anymore. Isn't there a saying that goes, a pitiful person must have a hateful side? Xia Chu was stunned. She bit her lips. Miss Hong Wan, young Master Ling Chen still has you in his heart. If you don't want to see me, I can disappear and never appear in front of young Master Ling Chen again. I just beg you to give him a chance. Hong Wan narrowed her eyes, and anger gradually appeared in her beautiful eyes. Just as she was about to explode in anger, a hand suddenly landed on her back. An evil voice sounded next to her ear. I said before, I'll get rid of these two people for you. Hong Wan was stunned. She looked at Yun Luofeng, and chose to retreat to the back. Xia Chu raised her head, and her gaze slowly fell on the handsome young man's face. In that instant, her heart seemed to have been violently pounded, and her face was dyed red. No wonder Hong Wan had become so disdainful of Ling Chen. It turned out that she had unknowingly seduced such a handsome young man. It was such a pity that such a handsome young man was with a shrew like Hong Wan. Yun Luofeng lightly stroked his chin, and looked at the kneeling Xia Chu with a smile that did not seem like a smile. You want Hong Wan to marry Ling Chen. Is it because of your own selfishness, or is it because of Ling Chen? Xia Chu's gaze was sincere and sincere. Everything I do is for young Master Ling Chen. Furthermore, as long as Miss Hong Wan is willing to marry him, I can leave this place without asking for anything. I will never see him again. Alright, since that's the case, you can leave. Yun Luofeng nodded and said seriously. Xia Chu's expression changed on the spot. She clenched her fists tightly, restraining the anger and indignation in her heart. Why? Just because his family was inferior to Hong Wan, he had to suffer such grievances. Hong Wan could only reincarnate. If she was the young miss of the continent Lord Manor, then Hong Wan would definitely be inferior to her in every aspect. Young Master, I also want to leave young Master Ling Chen, but... Xia Chu loosened his fist, took out a handkerchief, and wiped the tears from his eyes. Young Master Ling Chen doesn't want to let me go. The smile on Yun Luofeng's face became more and more demonic. She looked at the crowd. Everyone, I'm sure you all heard her clearly. She kept saying that Hong Wan wouldn't give Ling Chen a chance. Now that she has given him a chance, she rejected it herself. You can't blame Hong Wan for this. Xia Chu looked down, his eyes filled with hatred. She was just casually saying that because she knew that Hong Wan would think that Ling Chen's body was not clean, and would definitely refuse. Moreover, she didn't really want to ask Hong Wan to marry Ling Chen. She just wanted Ling Chen to know her determination. This way, even if the continent lord objected, Ling Chen would not hesitate to let her marry him. Chapter 1334. However, she never thought that this young man would agree on Hong Wan's behalf. The onlookers also reacted to Yun Luofeng's words, and immediately turned to Xia Chu. Miss, with your status, you're not good enough for young Master Ling Chen. Why don't you just leave? That's right, this young master is right. Just then, you said that in order to help them, you wanted to leave young Master Ling Chen. Now that you've been given the chance, why aren't you willing to leave? Tisk tsk, do you even need to think about it? She never planned to leave from the start, and was just putting on an act. How could someone like her compare to Miss Hong Wan? If this was anywhere else, perhaps some people would think that Xia Chu was pitiful, and would stand on her side. However, this was the Eastern continent. Although Hong Wan was domineering, she was also very protective. As long as it was a citizen of the Eastern continent, no matter who was in trouble, she would not be stingy. Because of this, she was loved and respected by the citizens of the Eastern continent. As such, Xia Chu wanted to guide the public opinion, but found the wrong place. Why? Xia Chu stood up from the ground. She staggered as tears flowed down her pale face. Just because I'm not powerful enough, I have to be bullied? I don't even have the right to be with my lover? Is it wrong to fall in love with someone? Yun Luofeng crossed his arms, and looked at Xia Chu. Firstly, you said that you wanted to leave, and no one forced you to. Secondly, since you love Ling Chen so deeply, it's enough for you to be with him forever. Why did you come to harass Hong Wan? Aren't you asking for it? Xia Chu's body trembled. I just wanted to help young Master Ling Chen. Alright, I'll give you another chance. If you can kneel here for 5 days and 5 nights, I might consider giving Hong Wan to him. Yun Luofeng held Hong Wan's hand, and walked towards the door. Let's go. Our mood has been ruined, and we don't have the mood to stay. When she walked to Xia Chu's side, she stopped, and said in a low voice, I won't let anyone hurt Hong Wan, so, if you want to die, I don't mind killing you. After saying this, the young man in white passed through the crowd, and disappeared from Xia Chu's sight. On the bustling street, Hong Wan struggled free from Yun Luofeng's grasp. She stopped in her tracks and raised her head to look at him. Yun Luofeng, just now, thank you very much. If it were her, she would have definitely attacked Xia Chu after being provoked. But Yun Luofeng was different. Even if she did not make a move, Xia Chu would be badly injured. This caused Xia Chu, who originally had the upper hand, to fall into a disadvantageous position. Hong Wan. Yun Luofeng turned his head and looked at the woman in red behind him. In order to enter the Northern Continent's Continent Lord's mansion, Xia Chu will definitely kneel in a restaurant for 5 days and 5 nights. When that time comes, get someone to watch over her. Also, be prepared to be blamed by Ling Chen. Hong Wan smiled. I used to think highly of Ling Chen, but later on, I realized that I was blind. That scum's words can no longer hurt me, and, she paused for a moment before continuing, you did the right thing. Ling Chen loves Xia Chu. If I force Xia Chu to kneel for 5 days and 5 nights, Ling Chen will definitely become furious. From now on, I can also get rid of his pestering. Hong Wan sighed. Her voice was a little sad. They used to be childhood sweethearts. Why did things have to escalate to such an extent? Chapter 1335. Hong Wan. Yun Luofeng thought for a moment, then said, Ling Chen came to find you today, but he left because of an urgent matter. I asked around. It was said that Xia Chu's old illness had relapsed, so he left in a hurry. However, I saw Xia Chu's body today, and her body is so weak because she took a medicinal herb called luotsang flower. Luotsang flower? Hong Wan was stunned. What is this luotsang flower? A medicinal herb that can fake a weak body. In other words, in order to get Ling Chen to go back, she purposely took the luotsang flower to fake her illness. Other than that, there is nothing wrong with her body. So, I want to ask, when you and Ling Chen met, did Xia Chu often use this excuse to get him back? Hong Wan was silent for a long time, then nodded. Indeed, a few years ago, Ling Chen accidentally saved Xia Chu, and the two of them had feelings for each other. Xia Chu got pregnant before marriage, and Ling Chen wanted to take her as a concubine, but the Continent Lord's mansion did not agree, and even put Ling Chen under house arrest, causing Xia Chu to miscarry in grief. Since then, she has been sick and weak. Because of this, Ling Chen feels so guilty towards her, always thinking that he harmed her. After saying this, she raised her beautiful eyes and looked at Yun Luofeng seriously. So, you said that there is nothing wrong with her body, is that true? I'm very sure that there is nothing wrong with her body. Yun Luofeng's words caused Hong Wan's heart to tremble. She, who had pitied Xia Chu, had now placed her sympathy on Ling Chen. So, Ling Chen is just an idiot, and was fooled around by a woman. This woman is really scheming. She knew that she had lost her child, and could not use the child to enter the Northern Continent Prefecture, so she pretended to be sick to make Ling Chen feel guilty. Yun Luofeng lightly stroked his chin. Hong Wan, this luotsang flower is not a very magical medicinal herb, but did the Continent Lord's mansion not have any doctors to diagnose her? Hong Wan shook her head. At that time, Ling Chen felt very guilty, and wanted to let the Continent Lord's mansion doctors treat her, but Xia Chu desperately refused. She said that her status was low, and that she was not worthy of those noble doctors treating her. Moreover, if she used the power of the Continent Lord's mansion, the Continent Lord would definitely not allow her to enter the Northern Continent. Because of this, Ling Chen was incredibly moved, and he wanted to give Xia Chu all of his love. I finally understand why Ling Chen didn't choose you, Yun Luofeng said as he blinked. It's because you won't act pitiful like Xia Chu, nor will you say things that other people like to hear. However, one day, you'll meet someone who appreciates your straightforward personality. Because Hong Wan was too straightforward, she was at a disadvantage in the contest with Xia Chu. However, Yun Luofeng liked her personality. At least when he was with her, he was very relaxed. You're right, Hong Wan raised her eyebrows and smiled. Do you think that I, Hong Wan, can't find an outstanding man? Who was Ling Chen? Why should I compromise for him? He likes hypocritical women like Xia Chu, so I'll fulfill his wish. Yun Luofeng, let's go. There's someone I don't like in this restaurant. Let's go somewhere else. A rose-like smile blossomed on Hong Wan's face. She held Yun Luofeng's hand tightly and walked quickly towards another restaurant. After entering the restaurant, Yun Luofeng finally understood what it meant to be heroic. Chapter 1336. In the eastern continent, Hong Wan had reserved a private room in every restaurant. This was so that she wouldn't have to use other people's items. When all of the dishes were served, they looked, smelled, and tasted great. Hong Wan looked at Yun Luofeng and raised her eyebrows. You don't like this restaurant's food? Yun Luofeng put a mouthful in his mouth and shook his head. No, I just miss someone's cooking. After leaving Yun Shao, she still couldn't get used to the food outside. Of course, if it was anyone else, after tasting Yun Zhao's cooking, they probably wouldn't be able to eat it either. It was like heaven and earth. That's right, Yun Luofeng, where did Hu Li go? Yun Luofeng put down his chopsticks. He's not far from me, so he won't appear by my side for now. Before she found out who Wu was, she wouldn't let him near her. As for Hu Li, she was sent to keep an eye on Wu. You suspect that child's identity, so you sent Hu Li to keep an eye on him. Aren't you afraid that Hu Li will be in danger? Hong Wan asked curiously. Yun Luofeng smiled. If there's really something wrong with this child, then his target is me. As such, he won't go and harm Hu Li. This was why he didn't worry about Hu Li being alone with him. By the time Yun Luofeng and Hong Wan returned to the Continent Lord's residence, it was already quite late. Just as the two of them stepped through the door, a figure rushed towards them like a madman. Hong Wan. Ling Chen let out a roar of anger, and quickly rushed in front of Hong Wan. His tightly clenched fists made cracking sounds, and his eyes were bloodshot. Why did you do this? Why did you punish Chu Bear like this? She only came to find you because of me. How could you be so cruel to a kind-hearted woman like her? Ling Chen was so angry that his body trembled. I want you to beg Chu Bear to get up. Otherwise, when I force her to get up, she'll threaten me with suicide. She even said that without your order, she won't dare to get up. Come with me to beg her to get up. He didn't use please, but beg. Just as Ling Chen grabbed Hong Wan's arm and was about to take her away, Hong Wan's gaze became cold, and she flung his hand away. My Feng said that if she knelt for 5 days and 5 nights, Feng would consider giving me to you. However, I didn't force her to kneel. This is her own choice and has nothing to do with me. At that time, Yun Luofeng had only said that he would consider it. It was not an absolute sentence. Even if Xia Chu knelt for 5 days and 5 nights, Yun Luofeng still wouldn't hand the Hong Wan over to Ling Chen. Ling Chen raised his hand, and viciously slapped Hong Wan. Just as his hand was about to land on Hong Wan's face, Hong Wan raised her hand and grabbed the man's wrist tightly. Ling Chen. Our friendship ends here. I don't owe you anything. Hong Wan suddenly exerted force, causing Ling Chen to take a few steps back. He gripped his wrist, which had been bruised by Hong Wan's grip, and raised his eyes to look at the gradually disappearing red dress. He didn't know why, but when he saw the woman's heartless face, his heart felt empty in an instant. Even Ling Chen didn't know where this feeling came from. Eldest Mississippi. Suddenly, a guard walked out, and cupped his fists towards Hong Wan. He respectfully said, Eldest Miss, the Continent Lord has invited you and young Master Yun to make a trip. Father is looking for me? Hong Wan was stunned. She turned to look at Yun Luofeng, and asked, if you want to go with me, then we'll go now. If you're not willing, then no one can force you. Chapter 1337. Let's go. Yun Luofeng shrugged. Since the Continent Lord wanted her to go with Hong Wan, there was no harm in her going. Hong Wan did not say much, but she had already made up her mind. If her father really made things difficult for Yun Luofeng, she would stand by her father's side regardless of the consequences. This was the promise she had made to her before. A gentleman's word was worth 1,000 gold, and she could not go back on it. The atmosphere in the study was solemn. A middle-aged man stood with his hands behind his back facing the door. His aura was imposing and unapproachable. This was the second time Yun Luofeng had seen Continent Lord Hong Ling, the person who commanded the winds and clouds in the East Continent. Hong Ling seemed to have sensed their arrival, and slowly turned around. At this moment, she was no longer as aggressive as before, and her expression was one of helplessness as she sighed heavily. Luan, are you really not willing to marry Ling Chen? When Hong Wan first returned to the Continent Lord's mansion, he was so angry that he could not help but berate her. Now that he had calmed down, in order to not force his daughter to leave again, he could only suppress his anger and ask helplessly. Hearing this, Hong Wan nodded heavily. Yes, I will not marry Ling Chen. Luan, in the future, the 7 continents will undergo great changes. If you marry Ling Chen and unite the 2 continents, you will be able to survive in the 7 continents. Hong Ling's expression gradually became serious, otherwise, the East Continent will be destroyed. Hong Wan sneered, Father, if you want the East Continent to survive the great changes in the 7 continents in the future, you will have to marry your daughter? If it were someone else, it would be fine. But I, Hong Wan, will never use marriage to seek peace. Great changes in the 7 continents? When Yun Luofeng heard these words, he secretly paid attention, but he still stood by Hong Wan without saying a word. Luan, Hong Ling's eyes were filled with anger. You are only a woman. No matter how talented you are, how can you support the entire East Continent with your own strength? But I only have one daughter, you. If you don't marry Ling Chen, how can I die in peace? Hong Wan did not expect her father to be so stubborn, and her expression became colder. I said, with my own strength, I don't need the North Continent's help. One day, I'll be able to make the Eastern Continent stand at the top of the 7 continents with my own strength. Forget it. This peerless expert, whose name shook the world, was now completely helpless against his daughter, who was in her rebellious phase. He knew his daughter's temper. Once she set her mind on something, she would not turn back even if she died. Luan, if you don't suffer, you won't turn back. Even I can't do anything to you. Hong Ling smiled bitterly. Even though he was very strict with his daughter, she was his only daughter after all. Was he going to put her on the bridal sedan? I won't bother with your business anymore. Also, you have to deal with the matter between you and Ling Chen on your own. Also, the Northern Continent's Continent Lord will personally visit you in a few days to cancel the engagement. Have you thought of a way to reject him? Tactfully refuse? Why should I refuse? Hong Wan sneered, I won't marry. Even if the Emperor of Heaven comes, I won't marry. Hong Ling shook her head helplessly. Only then did she look at Yun Luofeng. At this moment, perhaps because Yun Luofeng found the conversation between the father and daughter boring, she casually pulled a chair and sat down. Her body leaned lazily against the back of the chair, and her evil eyes seemed to look down on the world. Chapter 1338. However, Yun Luofeng's arrogant attitude displeased Hong Ling, and her face darkened. When they first met, because Yun Luofeng and Hong Wan didn't stay for long, he didn't get a good look at Yun Luofeng. Now, he could carefully scan Yun Luofeng from head to toe. However, a jade pendant on the youth's waist fell into his eyes. The word June was clearly engraved on the jade pendant, causing his pupils to shrink. You're from the June family of spirit state. The June family of spirit state? Yun Luofeng froze. Her gaze gradually fell on the jade pendant on her body, her eyes filled with suspicion. This jade pendant was given to her by June Fengling. Could there be a problem? What is the June family of spirit state? Yun Luofeng's evil eyes twitched as he asked. The Lord of Spirit State is surnamed June. Hong Ling stared at Yun Luofeng. Now tell me, where did you get this jade pendant? Yun Luofeng caressed the jade pendant and faintly raised his lips. It's something my mother has carried with her since she was young. Is there a problem? June Fengling was Yun Zhao's mother, so naturally, she was also her mother. She couldn't say that it was a gift from her mother-in-law, so she called June Fengling mother. Hong Ling's pupils shrank, but returned to normal in the blink of an eye. If you want to know the origin of this jade pendant, you can go to the June family of spirit state. You will naturally find the answers you want there. In addition, the June family has offended many people. I advise you to take off this jade pendant to avoid being discovered by your enemies. Yun Luofeng's eyes narrowed, and he pondered for a moment. The June family of spirit state? It seemed that after she found Yun Shao, she had to make a trip to spirit state. Find an answer. After Yun Luofeng left the study, Hong Wan seemed to see that her father had something to say, so she stayed behind and asked in a low voice, "Father, what is the matter with the June family that you speak of?" Hong Ling sighed. Many years ago, the old master of the June family offended the former continent lord of the spirit state. As a result, he was hunted by countless masters of the spirit state. At that time, his wife was killed by the former continent lord. In order to protect his infant daughter's life, the old master of the June family had no choice but to give her to an old friend. Later, the old man of the June family went back to seek revenge on the former continent lord and annihilated the entire continent lord's mansion. That's why he became the continent lord of spirit state. However, he never moved away from the June family. Therefore, when people mention the continent lord's mansion, they refer to it as the June family of spirit state. But he has already become the rightful continent lord. All these years, the old man still missed his late wife and never remarried. He even searched everywhere for his daughter's whereabouts. However, not to mention his daughter, even his old friend had disappeared without a trace. So, the missing daughter of the June family is the biggest sore in his heart. And now, the June family's jade pendant has appeared in Yun Luofeng's hands. Could it be that her mother is the daughter of old man June? Hong Wan was a little surprised. She had not expected Yun Luofeng to have such an identity. She was silent for a moment, and then asked, "Are you sure that Yun Luofeng's mother is a daughter of the June family? That jade pendant couldn't have come from someone else in the June family?" Hong Ling shook her head. The word June on this jade pendant was carved with a special technique. Especially since this jade pendant can withstand an attack from a strong master. Do you think that an ordinary person of the June family could have such a jade pendant? Hong Wan blinked her eyes. "Father, should we inform the June family about this?" Chapter 1339. In fact, Hong Wan didn't want to inform the June family just to give Yun Luofeng a guarantee. More importantly, she was very fond of Grandpa June. The old man's wife had been dead for so many years, but he had always kept to his heart and never married. After he took his revenge, he wholeheartedly searched for his daughter, and he had not given up even now. How could she not be moved by this spirit? There is no doubt that this jade pendant came from old man June. However, whether or not Yun Luofeng's mother is the young miss of the June family still needs to be verified. Moreover, after old man June handed over the June family to his disciple, he left the spirit state. His whereabouts are still a mystery. Finding him is easier said than done. Hong Ling shook her head and sighed helplessly. The old man of the June family had always been traveling among the continents. Even the June family didn't know where he was. Moreover, he only had his own disciple's daughter with him. Looking for him was like looking for a needle in a haystack. "Father, no matter what, we must inform the June family. The June family will surely have a way to find Grandpa June." Hong Wan's expression was firm. If Yun Luofeng had the June family as his backing, then he would be able to walk unhindered in the 7 continents. Who would dare to bully and humiliate her? All right. Hong Ling's eyes flashed. "Hong Wan, you should build a good relationship with Yun Luofeng. If he really is the daughter of the June family's eldest daughter, there's no harm in marrying him." Hong Ling became more and more excited as she spoke. The spirit state was ranked near the top of the 7 continents. If they could ally with the June family, it would be much better than the northern continent. However, before he could restrain his excitement, Hong Wan sprayed a basin of cold water at him. "First, my relationship with Yun Luofeng has always been pretty good. Secondly, the June family is the June family, and Yun Luofeng is Yun Luofeng. It doesn't matter if she's a member of the June family or not. I'm different from you. You place too much importance on power. In my eyes, power is not as important as friendship. If you chase after power too much, then how much can you achieve in this life? After being taught a lesson by her own daughter, Hong Ling's face turned green and white. Anger surged in her heart. Father, we are cultivators, and cultivators should do as they please. Too many distracting thoughts will only make it difficult for us to move forward. If you insist on making me become like you, then I don't want the position of continent lord. I believe that with my strength, I can also step onto the peak of the continent. Hong Wan had long disliked Hong Ling's pursuit of fame and fortune. From her point of view, cultivation was about following one's heart. Regardless of whether Yun Luofeng was a member of the Jun family or not, she would always consider him as a friend. It would never change. If there was a reason why she valued Yun Luofeng so much, it was probably because of the battle in the inn. This battle caused her to feel a sense of kinship with Yun Luofeng. Furthermore, after interacting with him for the past few days, she understood that they were the same kind of people. Furthermore, in that battle, she and Yun Luofeng had fought to a draw, and her goal was to defeat her one day. Luan, you. Hong Ling slammed the table and stood up, glaring at her angrily. Hong Wan remained unmoved as she smiled. Father, I won't use any of the Jun family's power for you if Yun Luofeng is a member of the Jun family. But, she's the only person I can call a friend if she isn't a member of the Jun family. The people she had met in the past were all people who tried to curry favor with her for the sake of the power of the Continent Lord's mansion. Only Yun Luofeng could become her friend. Chapter 1340. Hong Ling was even more furious. She slammed her hand on the table, splitting it into two. However, Hong Wan turned around and left, not caring about Hong Ling's anger. Rebellious. This girl is rebellious. She dared to talk to her father like that, and she even dared to teach him a lesson. Hong Ling was furious. How could she stand at the peak of the continent without power? How could she have gotten to this point with the strength of one person? How could she have become so powerful if the continent lord hadn't provided her with the conditions to cultivate? Hong Ling became angrier the more he thought about it. He never believed that a person at the bottom could rely on their own strength to reach the peak. He also didn't believe that without the nurturing of the family, she would have much strength. A golden phoenix could never climb out of a mountain village. A phoenix could only be created with countless treasures. Forget it, I don't care about you anymore. You can do whatever you want. I risked my life to ask for a marriage alliance with the northern continent, and I also asked for the Jun family's help. Wasn't it all for you? I've done so much, but you don't appreciate it at all. Your stubbornness is exactly like your mother's. I owe you and your mother in this life. Hong Wan let out a heavy sigh and sat down. At this moment, this powerful person was like a helpless father facing his rebellious daughter. He could only let her make her life choices. Hong Wan looked very tired after she left the study. She had just opened the door when she saw the young man in white sitting in her room, sipping tea. Yun Luofeng? Hong Wan was startled. Why are you in my room? Yun Luofeng put down his teacup and looked up at Hong Wan. What do you mean by the great changes of the 7 continents? Hong Wan walked in and poured herself a cup of tea. She took a sip before putting it down. The great changes of the 7 continents happened once 1,000 years ago. Hong Wan looked at Yun Luofeng. Do you know that there is a terrifying existence suppressed under the 7 continents? These existences only awaken once every 1,000 years. When they awaken, it will be a disaster for the entire mainland. However, no one knows when they will awaken. My father is afraid that I won't be able to deal with these existences when he is no longer around. That's why he wants to form a marriage alliance with the northern continent, hoping to borrow the power of the northern continent to help me. Yun Luofeng frowned deeply. This was the first time she had heard of such a thing. Actually, I know that my father is doing this for my own good. However, I am not willing to listen to his orders. I do not believe that I will not be able to fight against those existences with my strength. Hong Wan laughed and explained. Yun Luofeng raised an eyebrow. It seems like there isn't just this conflict between you and your father. Hong Wuan was stunned. She shrugged helplessly. You found out? Because my mother was killed by him, I have never had a good impression of him since I was young. Your mother? That's right. My mother has an unyielding temperament, and her temper is even hotter than mine. She's also very powerful. Back then, she fought for the Eastern continent with my father's help. However, in order to make his powerful subordinates loyal to him forever and never betray him, my father decided to take their daughter as a concubine. How could a person like my mother allow her man to have multiple wives? She left my father in a fit of anger. Later, in order to prove to my father that he does not need to rely on a marriage alliance to consolidate his power, she forcefully broke through, causing her body to explode and her soul to be destroyed. Chapter 1341. If a person died, he or she could be reborn, but if the soul was destroyed, it was the same as disappearing from the world. Hong Wuan laughed coldly. I was still young back then, and did not remember my mother very well. But she was my mother after all, how could I not hate her? Sometimes, I really did not want her to be my father. Yun Luofeng took a sip of tea, and continued to listen to Hong Wuan. Perhaps it was retribution. All these years, my father had countless concubines, but none of them had children. Hong Wuan's smile became even colder. Yun Luofeng, tell me, how can men be so heartless? My mother fought for this world with him. After he obtained this world, he wanted to take a concubine in the blink of an eye. Is power and influence really that important to a man? At this moment, a handsome yet cold face appeared in Yun Luofeng's mind, and his lips curled into a smile. If he loved you, he would give up the world for you. If he did not love you, in his eyes, you are not as important as the world. That year, when he first met Yun Shao, she was just a trash with a bad reputation. But he was a high and mighty ghost emperor. For her, he was willing to lower his status and become the man behind her back. If she asked, this man would definitely conquer the world for her. In this life, with a husband like this, what else could she ask for? Yun Luofeng, I just told my father that if he forced me again, I would give up the Continent Lord's mansion. Actually, I was just scaring him. I am his only daughter. If not the Continent Lord's mansion, who else would he give it to? Although I do not care about power, this Continent Lord's mansion, I must take it. Hong Wuan's gaze became resolute. Because the East Continent belongs to my mother, I will not let anyone take advantage of it. What a joke. How could she give up the East Continent? For her mother, she would not give up the East Continent. I believe in your strength. Yun Luofeng smiled slightly. With Hong Wuan's power, she could indeed achieve great things in the future. But who knew, would there be a man who could move her heart again? But Ling Chen was no longer her choice. Mississippi, a servant pushed open the door, and hurriedly reported, young Master Ling Chen is still at the door, unwilling to leave. Don't worry about him, Hong Wuan sneered. If he likes to wait, let him wait. I want to see how long he can wait. According to Ling Chen's personality, he'll definitely leave within 6 hours. Hong Wuan seemed to have overestimated Ling Chen. Let alone 6 hours, he didn't even wait for 2 hours before hurrying to the restaurant to persuade Xia Chu. However, Xia Chu had already made up his mind that he would not get up until the 5th day. Because of this, Ling Chen's hatred towards Hong Wuan increased by a few levels. As for the emptiness in his heart, it had long since been thrown to the back of his mind. Hong Wuan, just you wait. Today, you've treated Xia Chu this way. In the future, I'll make you pay 1,000 times over. He said hatefully. At this moment, Ling Chen, whose eyes were filled with flames of fury, didn't notice the sinister and pleased look in Xia Chu's eyes. Hong Wuan, your character is too overbearing and unreasonable, and men will never like a woman like you. As long as I use some tricks, even the peerless white-robed young man next to you will become mine. At this moment, an arrogant and confident face appeared in Xia Chu's mind, and a look of infatuation appeared in her eyes. This was the first time she had seen such a peerless young man. Chapter 1342. The incredibly handsome Ling Chen in her eyes, compared to her, was like the clouds and mud. That young man was like a celestial being. Even a single glance from him was enough to make one's heart flutter. It was a pity that the young man's family was not as good as Ling Chen's. It was because of this that she had suppressed the impulse in her heart that day. However, if she could spend a night with the young man, she would be satisfied. As for Yun Luofeng's protection of Hong Wan and disdain towards her, it was not very important to her. No man could resist a woman who was as gentle as water. It was a pity that Xia Chu did not know that Yun Luofeng was a woman. It was because she did not know that she did something that she would regret for the rest of her life. 5 days later. The crowd in the bustling restaurant had long since dispersed. Ling Chen's heart ached as he helped Xia Chu up. He gritted his teeth. Chu, don't worry. After I marry Hong Wan, I'll teach her a lesson for you. Xia Chu lowered her head. Her fine black hair fell down, covering her pale face. Young Master Ling Chen, I've already completed the task that Miss Hong Wan gave me. I'll go with you to see her now. Also, I want to talk to that young Master Yun. I hope that he'll keep his promise and give Miss Hong Wan to you. No. Ling Chen hurriedly grabbed Xia Chu's hand. How can I let you go and see that guy? You're so pretty. What if he has ill intentions and bullies you? Xia Chu bitterly smiled. Young master, if he really wants to do something that's worse than an animal to me, then wouldn't it be better to let Miss Hong Wan know who he is? I won't agree. Leave this matter to me. Chu, you don't have to worry about it. Ling Chen frowned. Xia Chu was his daughter. How could he allow his woman to see a stranger? As such, he would never agree. Young master, if you go and find him, you're both love rivals. How could he give Miss Hong Wan to you? Xia Chu shook her head. Actually, what he said that day was that if I knelt for 5 days and 5 nights, he'd consider giving Hong Wan to me. He didn't say that he'd definitely give her up. Ling Chen's heart trembled. Then why did you have to suffer for 5 days? Young master, I won't give up even if there's a sliver of hope for you. Xia Chu bit his lips and continued. Besides, it's best if I persuade young Master Yun to let go. However, you need to keep Hong Wan occupied during that period of time. Otherwise, with Hong Wan's temper, she will definitely not allow young Master Yun to do such a thing. Chu, Ling Chen tightly hugged Xia Chu. You've done so much for me. How could I have met such a kind and virtuous person? Xia Chu buried her head in Ling Chen's chest, unable to see the expression in her eyes. You're the love of my life, and for you, Chu is willing to go to hell without fear. Xia Chu raised her head, looking at Ling Chen with tears in her eyes. Don't worry, young master. Since Chu has decided to follow you, I'll definitely keep myself pure for you. If that young man really wants to molest Chu won't let him get away with it. Ling Chen thought for a moment, then said, all right, then I'll send someone to protect you in secret. Xia Chu's eyes flickered. Young master, don't let your leave get too close to me. Otherwise, he'll definitely find out. If he sees young master's men, Tai Pin won't let go of Miss Hong Wan. For young master, Chu is willing to give it her all. Chapter 1343. Continent Lord's Mansion. In the West Court, just as Hong Wan was about to look for Yun Luofeng, a figure suddenly appeared in front of her, blocking her way. She frowned. Who let you in? Whenever Ling Chen thought about what Hong Wan had done to Xia Chu, he would feel a surge of anger in his heart. However, when he thought about his purpose in coming to the Continent Lord's mansion, he suppressed his anger. Hong Wan, this time I'm not here to bother you, nor to cause trouble for you. I just want to have a talk with you. As for Xia Chu, he had already sent people to follow him, so that brat would not be able to do anything to Xia Chu. What do I have to talk to you about? Hong Wan coldly laughed, and turned to walk away from Ling Chen. Ling Chen hurriedly took 2 steps forward, continuing to block her way. Get out of my way. Hong Wan's expression was cold as she shouted. Ling Chen looked at Hong Wan, before, you wouldn't have insulted me, nor would you have hurt an innocent girl out of jealousy. You've changed, you've become incredibly cruel and merciless. Is all of this because of that kid surnamed Yun? Hearing this, Hong Wan laughed, her laughter full of mockery. That's because you don't know me well enough. Ling Chen, I'll give you a chance, get out of my continent lord's mansion. From today onwards, we'll be like strangers, and we'll have nothing to do with each other. Hong Wan. Seeing that Hong Wan was about to turn and leave, Ling Chen anxiously shouted, You really don't care about our past friendship? Hong Wan stopped in her tracks, a trace of doubt in her heart. If it was the Ling Chen in the past, he would definitely be furious after what she had done to Xia Chu, but now, he did not seem to be angry at all. Instead, it seemed that he did not want her to leave. Why? Mississippi, a servant girl hurriedly ran over from the side and whispered something into Hong Wan's ear. After hearing this, Hong Wan's eyes shone, and she looked at Ling Chen strangely. Originally, Ling Chen thought that Hong Wan would not stay, but after hearing what the servant said, she was not in a hurry to leave. The smile on her face was sinister, and her eyes were full of smiles. You said you wanted to talk to me? Hong Wan looked at Ling Chen with a smile that didn't seem like a smile. All right, I'll talk to you now. Seeing Hong Wan's change, Ling Chen felt a bit uneasy, but he didn't know why. Could it be that Hong Wan knew that Chu Er had gone to find Yun Luofeng? No. This was impossible. Based on Hong Wan's personality, if she knew that another woman had gone to her man's place, she would definitely not be able to control herself and rush over aggressively. Therefore, perhaps Hong Wan was really willing to have a chat with him. Ling Chen smiled. As long as he could stall her, Chu would have a way to make Yun Luofeng give up on Hong Wan. In the room, the girl sat on a chair. Her ears twitched slightly and she heard footsteps coming from outside the door. The door was pushed open by a lily-white hand, and not long after, a gentle and beautiful woman in a green scholarly dress appeared in her room. At this moment, the woman's eyes were filled with tears. Her gaze was weak and helpless as she gazed at Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng took a sip of tea, and asked indifferently, Was it Ling Chen who brought you in? Xia Chu bit her lip, Young master left me alone for Miss Hong Wan. I accidentally came here, and didn't know that this was young master Yun's residence. Please forgive me, young master. Chapter 1344. Ling Chen went to see Hong Wan? Yun Luofeng asked with raised brows. Xia Chu nodded gently. The two of them were playing hand in hand. I felt that I was unnecessary, so I left. Logically speaking, when a man hears that his woman was playing hand in hand with another man, he would definitely be filled with jealousy. However, Yun Luofeng continued to gracefully play with the teacup in his hand, a careless smile on his peerless face. Xia Chu's eyes flashed. Yun Luofeng did not seem to care about Hong Wan at all. Did that mean that their relationship was very shallow? That she could enter at any time? After a long while, Yun Luofeng put down the teacup in his hand. If there's nothing else, you may leave. Sir Yun. Suddenly, Xia Chu threw herself at Yun Luofeng. However, she did not throw herself into the young man's arms. Instead, she knelt in front of him. Sir Yun, actually, from the first time I saw you, Chu understood what it means to be a celestial being. Even though you were so cruel to Chu's heart has already fallen into your hands. Yun Luofeng lowered her brows and gently lifted Xia Chu's chin with her finger. She smiled faintly. You mean, you want to seduce me? Xia Chu blushed and lowered her head. Chu is not as unreasonable as Miss Hong Wan. If I can serve you for a night, Chu will be satisfied. Hong Wan was unreasonable. A fierce light flashed in Yun Luofeng's eyes. She raised her leg and kicked Xia Chu away with a loud bang. Xia Chu slammed into the wall. She raised her startled eyes and stared at Yun Luofeng in disbelief. Faced with such a tender and sweet woman like her, he could actually be so cruel? In the beginning, Xia Chu had thought that Yun Luofeng was coveting the power of the Continent Lord's palace. That was why he was protecting Hong Wan in front of the public. After all, who would like an unreasonable woman like Hong Wan? However, she never expected that Yun Luofeng would attack her when Hong Wan was not around. Yun Luofeng's body leaned lazily against the back of the chair. She took out a handkerchief from her lapel and carefully wiped the finger that had lifted Xia Chu's chin. Her expression and actions made it seem as if Xia Chu was the germ that had contaminated her finger. Since you don't accept me, don't blame me for being rude. Xia Chu's eyes flickered with a cold light. With a swoosh, she tore off the clothes covering her chest, revealing half of her breasts. She was filled with temptation. Then, she purposely messed up her hair, slammed the door, and shouted. Help! Help! Someone is trying to molest me. Xia Chu's cries were very pitiful, and his pathetic appearance easily caused people to have wild and fanciful thoughts. The first to appear were the people Ling Chen had sent to protect Xia Chu. He had been told by Ling Chen that if Xia Chu cried out, he had to immediately appear in front of Xia Chu. Therefore, when he saw Xia Chu in such a sorry state, he flew into a rage. Miss Xia Chu, don't worry. My young master will definitely seek justice for you. As he spoke, the people from the Continent Lord's mansion also heard the commotion and came over. The person walking at the front was impressively the travel-worn Continent Lord Hong Ling. After Hong Ling, Hong Wan and Ling Chen also hurried over. As soon as Xia Chuyen saw Ling Chen, he leapt into his arms and started to cry. Chu, what happened? Did that bastard molest you? When Ling Chen saw Xia Chu, he tightly clenched his fists, his eyes spitting fire. Chapter 1345. Xia Chu was sobbing uncontrollably. Her hair was disheveled, making it impossible for people not to guess what had happened to her. Young master. Xia Chu finally stopped crying. She raised her tear-stained eyes. You have to get justice for Chu. In other words, she was admitting that Yun Luofeng had humiliated her. Good, very good. Ling Chen tightly gritted his teeth, to the point that he could hear them chattering. Hong Wan. This is the man you found. He's a lecher, but not only is he lecherous, he even dared to look at Chu Bear's beauty. This kind of person is not good enough for my Chu Bear. Hong Wan smiled, playing with her hair. Do you think I'm prettier or Xia Chu? Yun Luofeng would look at Xia Chu's beauty. What a joke. She can't even compare to a finger of mine. Is she worth my phone, looking at? Everyone in the Continent Lord's residence looked at Ling Chen with hostility. If he dared to say that their young miss was not as beautiful as Xia Chu, they would definitely rush up and beat him half to death. Who cares if he's a young master of the Northern Continent? He can't bully the young miss. Ling Chen angrily said, Yes, you're beautiful, but you're too unruly and unreasonable. How can you compare to Chu Bear's gentleness? Moreover, men always look at the pot while eating from the bowl. Who can guarantee that he doesn't want to have multiple wives? After saying this, Ling Chen turned to look at the silent Hong Ling. Uncle Hong, you have to get justice for me. Hong Ling's stern gaze swept over the woman hiding in Ling Chen's arms, and he said in a stern voice, Who allowed this woman to enter the Continent Lord's residence? He did not answer Ling Chen's question, and instead questioned him. What kind of place is the Continent Lord's residence? Is it a place that a shady woman like her can enter? Hong Ling's eyes were filled with fire, and he said in a domineering voice, And you, Ling Chen, this Continent Lord allowed you to have concubines, but I didn't say that you could bring your concubines to bully this Continent Lord's daughter. As such, you can forget about calling me Uncle Hong. I don't have a nephew like you. Ling Chen's face alternated between green and white as he gnashed his teeth, red. Continent's Lord wants to protect Yun Luofeng? Just based on this woman's words, you can conclude that Yun Luofeng humiliated her? I think this woman has ulterior motives. She can't bear to see my daughter happy, so she came to destroy this marriage. Hong Wan cast a strange glance at Hong Ling. According to his father's personality, he would definitely side with Ling Chen. After all, Ling Chen was the young master of the Northern Continent. As someone who valued power and influence, how could he reprimand Ling Chen because of his relationship with the various continents? It was also unreliable to say that it was because of the Jun family. He still wasn't sure if Yun Luofeng was the daughter of the Jun family's eldest daughter, so he couldn't make such a decision without being certain. Could it be that this fellow had changed? Young master. Xia Chu's tears flowed out like water, and his voice was filled with grief. I'm sorry, it's all Chu's fault. If it wasn't for Chu, this wouldn't have happened. Originally, Chu came here to find Yun Luofeng with good intentions. I wanted him to help you and Miss Hong Wan, but who knew that Yun Luofeng was such a lecher? Xia Chu bit her lip, and looked up at Ling Chen. However, Yun Luofeng is the future son-in-law of the Continent Lord's residence, so let's forget about it. I don't want to burden you, young master. Chapter 1346. Originally, Ling Chen had planned to leave first. There were too many people in the Continent Lord's mansion, and there was no benefit in fighting with these people. Now, hearing Xia Chu's pitiful words, the anger in his heart once again surged. Look, this was the woman he loved. How beautiful and kind. At a time like this, she was still thinking for him. How could he be weak? As a man, if he couldn't stand up for his woman, then what was the use of him? Chu, you don't need to say any more. Today, I will definitely get justice for you. Ling Chen gritted his teeth, then raised his head and yelled towards the door, Yun Luofeng, get out here. Just as he finished speaking, a person in white walked out of the door. The young man's white robes were like snow, and he was incomparably handsome, like a god. Who's barking outside? Who's barking outside? The young man's voice was not loud, but rather calm. However, everyone could hear the arrogance in his voice. What did barking mean? Only the noise of a dog could be called barking. This brat dared to call him a dog? Ling Chen clenched his fists. Yun Luofeng, you even dare to molest my woman. You're simply too daring. Today, no one can protect you. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows, looking at the woman in Ling Chen's arms, and smiled. Do you think everyone has the same taste as you? You. Ling Chen was furious. Was this brat saying that his taste was too bad, and that he didn't like a woman like Xia Chu? Young Master Yun, Hong Ling frowned, turning to look at Yun Luofeng. Can you tell me what happened? She came uninvited, and first told me that Hong Wan and Ling Chen were traveling hand in hand, and said that she wanted to spend the night with me. Then I kicked her, but I don't know why, but she tore her clothes and ran out. Yun Luofeng said disapprovingly. Hong Wan's eyes widened, and she angrily said, when did I travel hand in hand with you? Don't lie through your teeth. You're lying. Just as Hong Wan finished speaking, Xia Chu's voice came from the side. Her body seemed to be trembling in anger as she glared at Yun Luofeng. My clothes were clearly torn by you. A lecher like you is completely unworthy of Miss Hong Wan. Miss Hong Wan was deceived by you, that's why she accepted you. One had to admit that this Xia Chu was indeed very scheming. She knew what to say to make the people of the Continent Lord's mansion stand on the same side as her. Therefore, her words did not insult Hong Wan at all. Instead, she claimed that Hong Wan was deceived by Yun Luofeng. This way, the people from the Continent Lord's mansion would definitely join forces to deal with Yun Luofeng. Sure enough, everyone in the Continent Lord's mansion, aside from Hong Ling and her father, was glaring at Yun Luofeng. It was as if Yun Luofeng had done something that angered everyone. Poochie. In the end, Hong Wan couldn't help but laugh. Ling Chen, my servant girl told me that Xia Chu sneaked into Yun Luofeng's room. Do you know why I didn't rush to stop him? Everyone looked at Hong Wan in confusion. Even Hong Ling did the same. He knew his daughter's personality very well. She was extremely impulsive. If she had known earlier, she would definitely have rushed over. Could it be that she wanted to test Yun Luofeng? But looking at her expression, it did not seem so. Chapter 1347. What do you mean? Ling Chen's face stiffened as he asked. Hong Wan's smile became wider and wider. That's because I want to know what Xia Chu wants to do. Looks like I've really overestimated her. She can even play such childish tricks. She really proves the saying, a shameless person is invincible. Hong Wan, can't you see that Yun Luofeng is bullying Chu, Ling Chen's expression became even uglier. Everything in front of him proved that Xia Chu had been humiliated. Did Hong Wan really trust this man? Hong Wan did not reply to Ling Chen, and walked over to Yun Luofeng's side. She smiled. Yun Luofeng, thank you for your help these past few days. Now my father is no longer forcing me to marry him. Our goal has been achieved. What? What did this mean? Everyone blinked in shock. What did she mean by their goal had been achieved? Just as everyone was filled with doubt, Hong Wan raised her hand, and pulled on the hair tie that Yun Luofeng used to tie his hair. She gently pulled it off. Her fine black hair cascaded down her face, covering her beautiful face that could cause the downfall of a nation. Immediately, Yun Luofeng took out a bottle of medicine from who knows where, and wiped it across her throat. Her throat seemed to melt, and gradually disappeared, dead silence. No one spoke, and everyone stared unblinkingly at Yun Luofeng. Her Adam's apple disappeared? This young man was actually a woman? Hong Wan, my task is complete. You can take care of the rest yourself. Her voice was not as low and hoarse as before. Instead, it had the crispness of a young girl. Ling Chen was dumbfounded. Xia Chu's face was deathly pale, and a layer of cold sweat appeared on her forehead. She stood in front of Ling Chen, and could not come back to her senses for a long time. Yun Luofeng, you're a woman? The first to come back to his senses was Hong Ling. He never thought that the son-in-law he had gradually accepted would be a young girl. Father, you've been forcing me to marry him. I don't want to marry Ling Chen, so I had Yun Luofeng disguise herself as a man. Hong Wan raised her eyebrows. Luckily, you've already agreed to let me decide my own marriage, so I don't need her to disguise herself as a man. Hong Ling took a deep breath, a strange look in her eyes. Fortunately, he hadn't informed the Jun family yet. Otherwise, how would the old man of the Jun family find him if his grandson became his granddaughter? Xia Chu. Hong Wan smiled at Xia Chu. Now you should understand why I did not stop you from entering Yun Luofeng's room. Now, I want to see how you are going to clean up this mess. Chu, Hearing this, Ling Chen came back to his senses and pushed Xia Chu away as he asked with a pale face, can you give me an explanation? Xia Chu's lips trembled slightly, and despair gradually appeared on his face. She had never thought that Yun Luofeng would be a woman. Hong Wan. Yun Luofeng turned to Hong Wan. Is there a doctor in the Continent Lord's mansion? Hong Wan suddenly came to her senses. She immediately understood the meaning of Yun Luofeng's words. She said to Hong Ling, Father, find someone to examine Xia Chu's body. Ling Chen, don't you think that Xia Chu is kind and gentle? Was it because he felt guilty for what had happened before? Then I will expose all her true colors in front of you. Chapter 1348. Who asked me, Hong Wan, to be a vengeful person? Although Hong Ling did not know what Yun Luofeng and Hong Wan meant, she still ordered someone to bring a doctor over. Not long after, a white-haired doctor appeared in front of Hong Ling. Go and diagnose her body, Hong Ling said as she waved her hand. Yes, Continent Lord. The old man cupped his fists and slowly walked towards Xia Chu. No, don't. Seeing the old man walking towards her, Xia Chu's expression changed and she retreated. Don't come over. Hong Wan looked at Xia Chu with a smile. I only heard that your body was weak because of a miscarriage, so I asked the doctor to diagnose your body. What do you mean by this? Is there some secret you can't tell others? At this moment, Xia Chu finally understood that she would never be a match for Hong Wan in this lifetime. She looked at the old man walking closer and closer to her, and her eyes became more and more panicked. Her clothes were already soaked in sweat, and her face was full of despair. No matter how stupid Ling Chen was, at this moment, he realized something. His expression became cold, and there was no trace of his previous warmth. Xia Chu, let him examine her. Xia Chu's body trembled. At this moment, the old man had already caught up with Xia Chu. After a while, he frowned and said, young people nowadays really dare to eat anything. They even dare to eat a medicinal herb like the luotsang flower. Luotsang flower? Ling Chen's body suddenly froze. Although he was not a doctor, he had heard of the luotsang flower. It was said that the luotsang flower only had one effect, and that was to make a healthy person look like a sickly person. Because this kind of medicinal herb was very useful, very few medicine shops would sell it. However, if one used this luotsang flower frequently, it would really cause one's body to become incredibly weak. That was why the old man said such a thing. Young master. Xia Chu's face flashed with anxiety, and she hurriedly grabbed Ling Chen's hand, saying, "Young master, listen to me, I did this because," bang. Ling Chen fiercely swung Xia Chu's hand. Xia Chu's body took a few steps back, and heavily fell to the ground, her face ashen. "Xia Chu, have you been lying to me all this time?" Ling Chen angrily roared out, "No wonder every time I came to find Hong Wan, your old illness would relapse, and because of my guilt, I would always return to your side." However, in the end, it was all a scheme. Ling Chen's heart felt as if it had been pierced by a needle. The person he loved wholeheartedly was a scheming woman. In order to get him, she didn't even care about her own body. Furthermore, she had seduced Yun Luofeng first, and after being rejected, she had framed her. How could such a woman be the pure Xia Chu in his heart? "Young master." Xia Chu choked with sobs. "Everything I did was because I love you." "Love me? Haha." Ling Chen wildly laughed. His laughter was filled with madness, and he staggered a bit as he bitterly said, "I still don't know if any of the things you said to me were true. A few days ago, you told me that you definitely wouldn't change your mind. However, when you saw Yun Luofeng's peerless looks, you wanted to seduce him. Is that your promise to me?" I didn't. Xia Chu's eyes were filled with tears as she shook her head, her voice trembling. Chapter 1349. You didn't seduce her, did she seduce you? If Yun Luofeng wasn't a woman, perhaps I would believe you. It was because Yun Luofeng was a woman that he understood how terrifying Xia Chu was. Xia Chu raised his hand to cover his face, letting the tears flow through the gaps between his fingers. She understood that she would be abandoned by Ling Chen for the rest of her life. Marrying into the northern continent was an unattainable dream. Ling Chen raised his head, looking at Hong Wan. His throat was choked, and he was filled with deep regret. I know I was wrong, can you give me another chance? No. Hong Wan rejected him without any hesitation. No, you're not such a heartless person. I know that you rejected me before because you were desperate. Ling Chen still held on to a glimmer of hope. Isn't there a saying that a prodigal who repents is more valuable than gold? Since I've already repented, why don't you give me another chance? Hong Wan crossed her arms in front of her chest, and looked Ling Chen up and down. A hint of a smile gradually appeared in her domineering eyes. You had an affair with Xia Chu, you're covered in germs. Why do you think I should accept you? Sorry, Hong Wan, will never accept a prodigal who repents. To me, the mistakes I've made can never be erased. You no longer have a chance. The woman's heartless words caused Ling Chen's body to tremble. His body could no longer support itself, and he fell heavily to the ground. I'm tired, Yun Luofeng lazily stretched. I'm going to rest first, don't disturb me if there's nothing important. After saying this, she slammed the door shut. Hong Wan could deal with what happened next, she didn't need to ask. Men, escort Ling Chen out for this continent's lord. Hong Ling said through gritted teeth, from today onwards, he is not welcome in the continent lord's mansion. Also, whoever let them in today, arrest them and punish them according to the law. After saying this, Hong Ling looked at her daughter, and said in a low voice, Come with me, I have something to say to you. Hong Wan raised her eyebrows, and slowly followed behind Hong Ling. In the study, Hong Ling did not speak, and neither did Hong Wan. The atmosphere became tense, and there was a faint sense of oppression. Hong Ling finally could not hold it in, and slowly said, I know that all these years, you've always blamed me for being too snobbish, causing you to lose your mother. Hong Wan coldly, as long as you know. This matter had already become a hurdle in her heart, and she had not forgotten about it for many years. This was already a hurdle in her heart, and she had not let it go for it. Karma. Even though this time, Hong Ling did not side with Ling Chen, she still could not get rid of the prejudice in her heart. If it wasn't for him, his mother wouldn't have forcefully broken through in order to prove herself, and she wouldn't have exploded and died. All of this was because he married a concubine in order to consolidate his power. Hong Ling was not angered. He shook his head with a wry smile and said, "That's because when I take in concubines, I will secretly give them a medicinal herb so that they will never be able to have children." Hong Wan was stunned. She raised her head in disbelief and looked at Hong Ling in astonishment. "I know that my methods are too cruel and heartless, but I can give them a life of luxury and give them a supreme status. However, I will never let them have my children." Hong Ling pressed Hong Wan's shoulder tightly. Chapter 1350. In this world, only your mother is fit to give birth to my bloodline. This world was fought for by your mother and me. Apart from you, no one else can inherit it. If you really love my mother so deeply, why do you keep taking in concubines? Even after my mother's death, you won't let her rest in peace? Luaner, there are some things you don't understand. Hong Wan smiled bitterly. Your mother is already dead and I can't let our efforts go to waste. Taking in concubines is a factor in the stability of the East Continent. Luaner, I've done so much for you. For me? Hong Wan laughed. You're taking in concubines for me and the East Continent? I, Hong Wan, have never believed in such tricks to rope in experts. I believe that I can subdue them with my power. If they betray me, I'll just kill them. Why would I need to resort to such tricks? Luaner, you'll never understand me if you're not in my shoes. You're now the only bloodline successor of the East Continent Master's mansion. Therefore, the concubines I've taken in will help you. If those people had their own children, they would definitely want to replace Hong Wan. As they had nothing, they could only protect Hong Wan. Only with her presence would the East Continent be immortal. Indeed, Hong Ling had put in a lot of effort for the sake of the East Continent and Hong Wan. However, he did not know that his actions had caused Hong Wan to feel a deep sense of disdain. Father, I still don't agree with your way of doing things. You can still manage the Continent Lord's mansion for many years. During this period, I will use my own strength to prove it to you. Hong Ling paused and then said, I will prove that my mother is not wrong. Hong Ling wanted to say something else but Hong Wan had already turned around and left. She did not stop and disappeared from his sight in the blink of an eye. After leaving the study, Hong Wan turned around and looked at the open door behind her. She clenched her fists tightly and secretly made up her mind. Father, although you're a good father, you're not a good man. Therefore, I'll prove to you that everything you've done is wrong. She then turned around and walked towards the other side of the corridor. However, she did not go to her own room. Instead, she went to Yun Luofeng's room. Perhaps Yun Luofeng already knew that she would come. He had already poured a cup of tea and was waiting for her. After she appeared, he asked indifferently, You're here? Hong Wan raised her head and looked at the young girl in front of her. Her eyes were filled with determination. When the time comes, I will go with you. She knew that once Yun Luofeng received the news, he would leave the Eastern Continent. All right. Yun Luofeng only said this one word, but it made Hong Wan's face blossom into a beautiful smile. Yun Luofeng, what you said is correct. A man who truly loves you will hand over the entire world to you. A man who doesn't love you is not even worth the world in your eyes. This time, I left not only to refine myself, but also to find a man who is truly willing to let go of the world for me. Yun Luofeng took a sip of tea and asked, What about the person I asked you to find? I came here to tell you about this. It is said that we already know the whereabouts of the Ghost Emperor. My people are still searching for the specific location. We should be able to get some news in a few days. The people of the Eastern Continent were scattered all over the continent, thus, with the influence of the Continent Lord's mansion, it was much easier for them to find someone. Chapter 1351. Within the courtyard, the handsome man held a bottle of wine in his hand, and poured it into his mouth. The wine flowed out of his mouth, but he did not seem to notice it at all. His lips curled into a bitter smile. The woman I love has been lying to me all this time. She's so cute, but I pushed her away. Haha. The man loudly laughed. His laughter was filled with madness, causing the servant standing next to him to become impatient. However, ever since their young master had returned from the continent lord's residence, he had been drinking away his worries. No matter what they said, he would not listen. Continent lord, suddenly, one of the servants' eyes lit up. She saw the middle-aged man rushing in from outside the courtyard. Just as she was about to call out to him, he raised his hand to stop her. Luan, air. The handsome man was still muttering, not seeing the person walking over. If I know I was wrong, can you give me another chance? A tall figure appeared in front of the man, blocking out the sunlight above his head. Ling Chen looked up in shock. After seeing the middle-aged man in front of him, he rubbed his eyes in disbelief. Father, why are you here? The middle-aged man's expression was dignified, and his eyes were sharp. I already know what happened between you and Hong Luan. Chen heir, come with me and apologize immediately. Apologize? Ling Chen bitterly laughed, looking quite embarrassed. She won't give me that chance. Hong Luan never wanted to see him again in this life. Servants, bring the young master some hangover soup. The middle-aged man ordered. He then turned to look at Ling Chen, and his expression softened. If you come with me and apologize, you might still have a chance. Chance? These two words caused Ling Chen's eyes to light up. He looked up at the middle-aged man. Father, I really have a chance. That's right. However, apart from bringing you to apologize, I'm also going to hand Xia Chu over to Hong Luan. Will you feel bad for her? Hearing the name Hong Luan, Ling Chen gritted his teeth. That woman lied to me. I've already cut off all ties with her. If I can exchange her for Luan heir, I won't regret it. See, this is what a man is like. When he loves you, he's willing to give you the entire world. When he no longer loves you, you're nothing in his eyes. Good. The middle-aged man said coldly, drink the hangover soup and set off with me immediately. A glimmer of hope appeared in Ling Chen's eyes. Even if Hong Luan were to reject him again, she would definitely give face to her father. In that case, he might really have a chance. East Continent. Continent Lord Mansion. Yun Luofeng had just entered a meditative state when 3 knocks came from the door. She slowly opened her eyes and said, "Come in." The door was pushed open, and a person dressed in embroidered clothes walked in. Hong Ling looked at the young girl sitting on the bed, and her expression was a little awkward. Ahem, he coughed twice, cleared his throat, and said, Miss Yun, I wonder if you're free right now? What's up? Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and asked the middle-aged man standing in front of him. I've come to you to ask you for a favor. The middle-aged man glanced at Yun Luofeng and continued, Of course, I won't ask you to help me for free. I've heard that Miss Yun is also a doctor. As long as Miss Yun is willing to help me, you can take away any medicinal herbs in my continent lord's mansion. Chapter 1352. Yun Luofeng was able to tell Xia Chu's symptoms at a glance, so he must be a doctor. The most tempting thing for doctors were herbs. Yun Luofeng thought for a moment. What do you want me to help you with? This. Hong Ling's expression became even more awkward. I know that Luan has made up her mind to leave with you. I beg you, take good care of Luan for me. That girl is too domineering, and she can't stand a grain of sand in her eyes. How can I not worry when she's away? Yun Luofeng stared straight at Hong Ling. After a long time, she finally said, I will not accept your herbs. Miss Yun. Hong Ling's expression changed slightly. Just as he was about to persuade her, the girl's indifferent voice sounded again. It was like a heavy hammer that hammered into his heart. You must believe in Hong Luan. With her abilities, she doesn't need anyone to take care of her. You must believe in Hong Luan. All of a sudden, Hong Ling felt as if she was suddenly enlightened, and her heart became clear. Miss Yun, I understand what you mean. Luan is my daughter, I should believe in her abilities. Hong Ling cupped his fists, thank you. With that, he turned and left. After Hong Ling left, Yun Luofeng entered meditation again. She felt the thin barrier inside her body shake again. Delighted, she quickly entered the divine grimoire space. As Yun Luofeng's strength increased, the medicinal field inside the divine grimoire space had expanded several times. The sky was blue. Congratulations on breaking through, Master. Little Mo looked at Yun Luofeng with a smile and sincerely congratulated him. Little Mo, I'm going to break through. Don't let anyone disturb me. With that, she sat down cross-legged. Faint spirit energy circled around her body. Boom! A powerful force attacked the paper-thin barrier inside her body. But even though the barrier was as thin as paper, it was extremely difficult to break. Every time Yun Luofeng exerted force, it only shook a little. Break! Yun Luofeng shouted coldly. The spirit energy flowing inside her body turned into power and fiercely slammed against the barrier. Spirit energy swirled in the sky. Perhaps it was because the spirit energy was too strong, it formed a vortex above her head. It was a spectacular sight. Unfortunately, because Yun Luofeng was breaking through inside the divine grimoire space, other than the spirit beasts in the space, no one could see this. Boom! Boom boom boom. Unknowingly, the lightning had also revealed itself. It rumbled as if it was about to strike down. Little Mo looked a little anxious. He clenched his fists tightly and looked at Yun Luofeng worriedly. Master will definitely succeed. She can't possibly fail. Fire was the exact opposite of Little Mo. She did not say anything as she stared at Yun Luofeng with her bright eyes. His expression was one of trust. Yes. In this world, Yun Luofeng would never fail. Ha ha ha. The small tree giggled and raised its two arms, wanting to pounce on Yun Luofeng. Fortunately, Fire stopped him in time and said in a low voice, "Don't disturb Master's breakthrough." The little tree pouted unhappily. "I want a hug, a hug." Then, the small tree struggled free from Fire's embrace and staggered in front of Yun Luofeng. He opened his mouth slightly, and in that instant, all the spiritual energy above Yun Luofeng's head was sucked into his mouth. Boom! Yun Luofeng had finally broken through that barrier, and his strength had entered a whole new level. Chapter 1353. Low-level Saint King, I've finally arrived. Once she became a Saint King, she would be considered to have truly stepped into the ranks of the strong. Little tree, why are you here? Yun Luofeng then discovered the chubby baby standing in front of him, his eyes filled with surprise. You seem to have grown up a lot. The small tree let out a satisfied burp and quickly threw itself into Yun Luofeng's arms. An innocent smile hung on its pink little face. Mother, I'm full, I want to pee. Yun Luofeng's face darkened. Let little Mo take you there. After saying this, she raised her head, but suddenly discovered that little Mo's body was enveloped by a group of halos, and his figure was gradually elongated. Little Mo? Yun Luofeng was startled. She released the little tree in her arms, and slowly walked towards little Mo. Suddenly, the halos that enveloped little Mo disappeared, the 6 or 7-year-old boy also disappeared, and what appeared in front of her was a tall, handsome, and slightly inexperienced youth. The youth had a head of black hair, a young smile on his face. He looked at his slender fingers, his eyes filled with joy. You are little Mo? Yun Luofeng's voice carried doubt, as if he did not believe that the person who appeared in front of him was that pink jade-carved talkative boy from before. However, the aura on this youth's body was clearly little Mo's. Master, the youth raised his head, looking at Yun Luofeng. I can explain this to you. Before Master's strength breaks through to Saint King, I can only meet you in my infant form, and I can't fight for you, nor can I stay in the outside world for a long time. However, the youth paused, then continued, once you break through to Saint King, I will also undergo a huge change. This change in my body is only a part of it. The most important thing is, from now on, I can stay by your side forever and fight for you. Oh, Yun Luofeng gently stroked his chin, raising his eyebrows and smiling. Why do I feel that the greatest use is that you can marry Little White? Master. The youth's eyes were filled with grief. That expression was a vivid representation of being bullied. Master, look. Suddenly, Fire's shocked voice came from the front. Yun Luofeng looked up. On the grass in front of him, there was originally a cute and lively girl lying flat. However, at this moment, the girl who was originally unconscious gradually opened her eyes. Her black eyes were filled with confusion, like a lost lamb. Xiao Bai is awake? Yun Luofeng's expression changed. There was no joy in his eyes. Impossible. Whitey's soul hasn't fully recovered. The third fruit of soul had not been found yet. Why did she wake up at this time? Little Mo, what are the consequences of her awakening? Before this, Yun Luofeng had used a silver needle to seal the girl's soul. Why did she wake up at this time? Little Mo's expression was ugly as well. The consequence of waking up early is mental incompetence. What caused it? I'm not sure. But I think the biggest possibility is that the storm created when you broke through affected her mind, causing her to wake up from her coma. The spiritual energy storm that was produced when one broke through to the Holy King realm was too great. As a result, the small tree could not help but absorb the remaining spiritual energy so that it would not go to waste. Therefore, it was not surprising that Xiao Bai was affected. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Chapter 1354. I forgot. Little Mo had indeed forgotten, so he felt guilty. How could he forget such an important thing? Yun Luofeng frowned and quickly walked to Lin Ruobai's side. She squatted down and said gently, Xiao Bai, how is your body? The girl was startled and asked word by word, Who are you? Who are you? Yun Luofeng's frown deepened as he turned to Little Mo. Did she lose her memory? I've already said that her soul has not recovered. Waking up prematurely will cause her mind to be incomplete, including losing all her memories. Little Mo lowered his head in shame. If not for him, perhaps Xiao Bai would not have woken up prematurely. What's the solution? Yun Luofeng asked calmly. Find the third fruit of the soul. The third fruit of the soul? Looks like she needs to leave the East Continent early. Little Mo, since Xiao Bai has woken up, the divine grimoire space will not let her stay here. So, I need you to leave and take care of Xiao Bai. What? Little Mo shouted anxiously, You want me to take care of this witch? Yun Luofeng's gaze scared Little Mo. He shuddered and said pitifully, All right, I'll take care of her. It was my mistake that caused her to wake up prematurely. Just treat it as compensation. Yun Luofeng lowered his head and stared at the girl in front of him. Xiao Bai, you must remember me. I am your master. Master? The young girl looked confused. She blinked her eyes and said, You're my master. My name is Xiao Bai. Yes, your name is Lin Ruobai. Lin Ruobai, the young girl softly murmured these 3 words. Her face bloomed with a smile that was brighter than the sun. She looked innocent and pure. All right, my name is Lin Ruobai. For some reason, Little Mo's heart skipped a beat when he saw the girl's smile. She was different from the cruel and headstrong Lin Ruobai of the past. At this moment, she was innocent, adorable, and pure. She was like a girl next door, pitiful. Little Mo hurriedly shook his head to get rid of the thoughts in his mind. Lin Ruobai was still Lin Ruobai. Even if her mind was incomplete, he would still not fall in love with her. Master. Lin Ruobai crawled up from the ground and hooked onto Yun Luofeng's arm. She looked up with her big bright eyes and said in a soft and sweet voice, Xiao Bai, I'm hungry, acting cute is shameful. Little Mo snorted. He couldn't stand the sight of Lin Ruobai clinging to Yun Luofeng and acting cute. In comparison, he still felt that the willful Lin Ruobai from before was more likable. Xiao Bai has been unconscious for so long, she should be hungry. Yun Luofeng patted Lin Ruobai's head, his eyes filled with love. Let's go, we'll take her to eat something. Master, I want to go as well. Fire curled her lips and looked at Yun Luofeng eagerly. Although the small tree didn't like eating those foods, it didn't want to stay in the divine grimoire space alone. Therefore, it had already used its limbs to cling on to Yun Luofeng, unwilling to let go. Alright, let's all go out then. Towards her own people, Yun Luofeng would never be heartless. Hence, she did not reject their request. Just as Yun Luofeng was leading everyone to eat, drink, and have fun, the North Continent Lord Lingli led a group of people to the East Continent Lord Mansion. Chapter 1355. How could Hong Ling not know why these people had come? After sending someone to invite Hong Wan, he sat in the hall and waited. After a while, a middle-aged man walked out from the hall and appeared in front of Hong Ling. Hong Ling loudly laughed as she stood up. Continent Lord Ling, you've finally come. You've come at the right time. I have something to announce. Without giving Lingli a chance to speak, Hong Ling directly said, this time, the marriage alliance between our two continents ends here. Ends here? Lingli's eyes darkened as he asked in a low voice, Continent Lord Hong, what do you mean by this? You should ask your young master about this. Hong Ling coldly looked at Ling Chen, who had his head lowered. I'm sure he can give you an explanation. Lingli looked at his son, and after seeing his pained expression, he couldn't help but sigh. Continent Lord Hong, I want to see Wan heir. Hong Ling smiled. I've already sent someone to call her. Just as she finished speaking, a red figure hurriedly walked in. The woman was incredibly beautiful, with almond-shaped eyes, willowy eyebrows, and red lips. She had an indescribable allure to her. Ever since Hong Ling came in, Ling Chen's gaze had been on her, unable to move away. The guilt in his gaze was very strong, so strong that it could be seen in his eyes. Continent Lord Ling, you've come? Hong Wan stopped walking and turned to look at Lingli. Are you here to cancel the marriage alliance? Hearing Hong Wan call him that, Lingli helplessly sighed. Wan, heir, you used to call me uncle, so why are you treating me like an outsider now? I know my son was in the wrong, so I've brought him here to apologize. I've also brought that woman Xia Chu. As long as you can calm down, you can do whatever you want with her. Hong Wan laughed mockingly. Continent Lord Ling, Ling Chen and Xia Chu have already consummated their marriage. Why do you think I should accept him? Lingli and Lingli's expression became a bit ugly. Chen heir is a man, so it's not strange for him to have other women. Moreover, I can promise you that in the future, there will not be any women in the Northern Continent's Continent Lord's residence. In order to establish a marriage alliance with the Eastern Continent, Lingli was going all out. Ling Chen did not say anything else. After the incident at the beginning of summer, he had decided to listen to his father's arrangements. I'm sorry. Hong Wan raised her eyebrows and smiled. I was born with misophobia. I will never accept a man who has been used by someone else. Hong Wan. Lingli shouted angrily. However, just as he finished shouting, Hong Ling's hands suddenly fell on the table, her eyes imposing and fierce. Continent Lord Ling, what do you want to do? My daughter is not someone you can yell at. Hearing this, Lingli took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in his heart. He continued, Wan, uncle hopes that you will consider this carefully. In this world, there are far too few people who only have one woman in their life. No, it should be said that such people do not exist. Therefore, a man like Chen, who doesn't take concubines in the future, can be considered a good man. After speaking, Lingli glanced at Ling Chen. Ling Chen suddenly came to his senses and hurriedly promised, I swear that as long as Wan is willing to marry me, I won't let any other woman enter the house. All he said was not to let any woman in. What Lingli said was that he would never take a concubine. Neither of them could guarantee that Ling Chen wouldn't take another woman in the future. How could a normal man not have any needs when living apart from his wife? As long as Ling Chen didn't take concubines, it was only natural that he would find other women to satisfy his needs. Chapter 1356. How could Hong Wan not understand what these people were implying? She sneered, her eyes filled with disdain as she slowly swept her gaze across Lingli and his son. Ling Chen, I once said that I, Hong Wan, only want one person for the rest of my life. Hong Wan raised her eyebrows and said condescendingly, What right do you have to marry me when your mind is controlled by your body? Ling Li frowned slightly. He used to think that Hong Wuan was very sensible, but now this woman was as stubborn as a cow. Furthermore, Chinner had already promised that he would never take another concubine. Was that not enough? Luaner, uncle is matchmaking you and Chinner for your own good. Which man does not have multiple wives and concubines nowadays? A man who is willing to marry only you in this life is already a good man. As for physical needs, that is a man's nature. No one can tolerate it. Hong Wuan sneered, since you said that, does that mean that all humans have needs? Can all women in the world sleep with Hong Wuan? Ling Li was furious, his tone no longer as polite as before. What are you talking about? How can a woman compare to a man? A woman should be faithful to the end of her life. Any woman who has an affair should be hacked to pieces. Actually, it was understandable for Ling Li to be so angry. After all, Hong Wuan's words had pierced his heart. Years ago, his concubine could not bear the loneliness and slept with another man. In a rage, he tore the adulterers into pieces. Any woman who was unfaithful deserved to die. Ling Li. Hong Ling's eyes turned cold. This is the East Continent, and Luaner is my daughter. I hope you can speak politely, otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless. Hong Ling, how dare you criticize me? I would like to ask you how you raised your daughter. How dare she say such dissolute words? As a woman, do you know what shame is? How dare she say that women can also satisfy their needs? If this woman was not the eldest daughter of the East Continent Prefecture, she would have been killed by the righteous people of the continent. My daughter naturally has me to teach her. You have no right to speak here. Hong Ling said coldly, her face expressionless. Men, send the guest away. From today onwards, the East Continent Prefecture does not welcome people from the North Continent. His voice was cold and resolute, and he did not care about the good relationship he had with the North Continent over the years. Moreover, this was indeed Ling Chen's fault. Now, these people had come here in the name of apologizing, but were still trying to force his daughter to marry him. Then why should he be polite to these people? 20 years ago, he had failed to protect the woman he loved. 20 years later, he would not let his daughter be hurt again. Hong Ling. Ling Li's eyes darkened and he said coldly, are you sure you want to do this? Not bad. Hong Ling sneered, please go back. All right, I hope you won't regret this. Ling Li's eyes were filled with viciousness. He lifted his head to look at Hong Wuan and said, Hong Wuan, you've missed out on a man like Chinner. Unless you remain unmarried for the rest of your life, your man will definitely have 3 wives and 4 concubines. It's impossible for anyone to promise you a lifetime of love. After saying this, Ling Li flung his sleeves and led the people of the North Continent Prefecture away in a hurry. Xia Chu seemed to have been forgotten by them as she was left in the hall. She looked at everyone in the hall with a pair of fearful eyes. Luaner, what do you plan to do with this woman? Hong Ling looked at Hong Wuan and asked. Hong Wuan pondered for a moment, everything she has done has nothing to do with me. If we were to say that she has made a mistake, there can only be one. That is, she had designs on Yun Luofeng. Chapter 1357. Father, Hong Wuan turned to Hong Ling and said, give the order to blacklist her. No one is allowed to accept her. I want her to destroy herself. In the end, Hong Wuan still showed mercy. Aside from Ling Chen, Xia Chu had not done anything to harm her. Everything that she had done to Xia Chu had nothing to do with her. No. Even with such a punishment, Xia Chu could not help but cry out in despair, Miss Hong Wuan, please let me go, I beg you. If the East Continent's prefecture lord issued an order to blacklist her in the future, not only would her family expel her, it would also be extremely difficult for her to find a rich husband in the future. This was equivalent to her life being ruined. Thinking of this, Xia Chu knelt in front of Hong Wuan and kowtowed fiercely. She kowtowed so hard that her forehead was quickly dyed red and blood flowed continuously from her head. Miss Hong Wuan, I know I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again. Please spare me, I beg you. Hong Wuan raised an eyebrow. I've said it before, this is the price you have to pay for framing Yun Luofeng. She would not personally deal with Xia Chu. However, once the East Continent's prefecture lord issued the order, this woman's days on the mainland would be extremely difficult. Perhaps her life would be worse than death. Scram! As soon as Hong Wuan shouted, 2 guards immediately stepped forward and grabbed Xia Chu's arms, violently throwing her out. Thump! Xia Chu's body rolled on the ground a few times, causing her back to ache from the fall. At this moment, her eyes were filled with helpless tears and despair. She knew that this time, she would definitely not have a chance to make a comeback. Unfortunately, her pitiful expression might be useful to men, but in Hong Wuan's face, it would only increase her disgust. In the living room, silence reigned. Hong Wuan turned her head, her phoenix eyes staring at the middle-aged man sitting on the high seat. Her red lips gently opened, "Thank you." Hong Ling's heart suddenly trembled. For so many years, Wuan had always hated him from the bottom of her heart. No matter how much he had done, she had never heard those 2 words. "Don't misunderstand," Hong Wuan continued when she saw Hong Ling's eyes move slightly. "I'm only thanking you because you protected me earlier. I'm afraid that I'll never be able to forgive you for what happened back then." How could the grief of losing his mother be easily forgiven? Otherwise, wouldn't my mother have lost her life in vain? I know. Hong Ling smiled bitterly. "Even if you don't forgive me, I will use my life to make it up to you." Hong Wuan wanted to say something, but the words that were at the tip of her tongue did not come out. She took one last look at Hong Ling, then turned around and walked out. Behind her, Hong Ling's gaze followed her figure until she disappeared from his sight. "Miss." As soon as Hong Ling stepped out of the living room, a figure landed in front of her. He cupped his fists and said, "We have found the whereabouts of the person you asked us to find." "What?" Hong Wuan was delighted. "Where is the Ghost Emperor?" "Central Province, Withered Dragon Town." "All right, I understand. I'll go find Yun Luofeng now and tell her this good news." At this moment, in the Xingtian restaurant, the originally lively restaurant was completely silent. The customers eating in the restaurant were all dumbfounded as they looked at the lovely girl who was sweeping away the food on the table in front of them. They were so shocked that they could not speak. Chapter 1358. They couldn't imagine how such a cute girl could wolf down her food. How could her small stomach contain so much food? "Eat slowly, don't choke." Little Mo frowned, not forgetting to remind Lin Ruobai. Even after the table was in a mess, Lin Ruobai still wasn't satisfied. She rubbed her stomach and looked at Yun Luofeng pitifully. "Master, I'm still hungry." 3 black lines appeared on Little Mo's forehead. She looked at Lin Ruobai speechlessly. "You've eaten so much and it's still not enough? My master's money isn't for you to spend like this, you wastrel." If it was the Lin Ruobai from before she had her memories, she would definitely tease Little Mo a little. But now, she only pouted her lips in dissatisfaction. Her bright eyes were filled with a pleading look. She looked so wrong that it made one's heart ache. At this time, in the restaurant, there were a few guards sitting at a table. The guards heard Lin Ruobai's words and couldn't help but look at her. "This little girl is not bad. If we can bring her back to the young master, he might raise our positions." Recently, Ling Chen had been depressed. Now that they saw such a cute girl, how could they not have designs on her? Moreover, the young master liked this kind of girl who looked pure and flawless. Wasn't Xia Chu like this too? "I think the girl in white is even more beautiful. She's a rare beauty. It's not just rare in the human world. Such a beauty probably doesn't even exist in the heavens. Unfortunately, the girl in white is holding a child. That child must be her son. She even has a son, so she's definitely not pure. Such a woman is not good enough for the young master." Sigh. Another guard sighed with some regret. "I wonder who was so lucky to marry such a stunning beauty. How good would it be if our young master had such a beauty? Can those men compare to our young master?" These guards of the North Continent Prefecture, because of their low status, did not follow Ling Chen to the East Continent Prefecture. They also did not follow Ling Li to the Continent Lord's mansion. Because of this, they did something that they would regret for the rest of their lives. Master, Lin Ruobai said shyly, when I passed by a street, I smelled a very fragrant scent. Can I? No. Little Mo didn't wait for Lin Ruobai to finish before answering for Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng glanced at Little Mo. Go with her, I have something to do later. All right. Little Mo lowered his head helplessly with a depressed expression. Fire, let's go. After saying this, Yun Luofeng stood up and walked out of the restaurant. She hadn't seen Hu Li for a long time, and she didn't know how he and Wu were doing, so she wanted to take this opportunity to take a look. Hey! Seeing Yun Luofeng leave, Little Mo turned to Lin Ruobai and said unhappily, Where are you going? I'll go with you. Lin Ruobai blinked lightly, curiously sizing up the young man standing in front of him. She smiled brightly and reached out to pinch Little Mo's cheeks. When Little Mo wasn't paying attention, she moved closer to him and planted a kiss on his cheeks. Little big brother, you're really good looking. I like you. Boom. Like a bolt of lightning, Little Mo's body stiffened. He was dumbfounded, as if he couldn't believe that this crazy girl, Lin Ruobai, would dare to kiss him. Chapter 1359. Oh no, his first kiss was gone. However, when he finally recovered from this feeling, he found that the girl who had just been standing in front of him had disappeared, on the bustling street. Lin Ruobai had only taken 2 steps when she was stopped by several guards. She blinked innocently and stared at the people in front of her in confusion. Why are you stopping me? Hee, a slightly older guard chuckled and said with a fake smile, Little girl, we see that you're very cute and want to treat you to a meal. I wonder if you're willing to come with us. Lin Ruobai's eyes lit up and her face lit up with a bright smile. Her 2 canine teeth were exposed under the sun and she looked extremely cute. All right. The guards looked at each other. A foodie like Lin Ruobai was easy to abduct and sell. Little girl, let's go. As long as you serve our young master well, you can eat and drink with us in the future, unlike your poor master who doesn't even give you enough to eat. Lin Ruobai suddenly stopped in her tracks. Her cheeks puffed up and she glared at the guard who had insulted Yun Luofeng. Don't speak ill of master. You have to apologize. The guard's face stiffened. You want me to apologize? Yes, you must apologize if you speak ill of master. Otherwise, I won't go with you. Food was not as important as master. For master, she could give up food. You'd better apologize quickly. The older guard poked him and said, Don't cause trouble. After all, this was the territory of the East Continent and they could not take the little girl away by force. If the little girl did not want to go with them, there was nothing they could do. The guard who had insulted Yun Luofeng blushed and said unwillingly, I'm sorry. When they reached the North Continent Prefecture, he would teach them a lesson. Miss, can we go now? Oh yes, I haven't asked for your name. Master said that my name is Lin Ruobai. Oh. Then what's your master's name? Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng? The guards looked at each other. They felt that the name was very familiar, as if they had heard it somewhere before. At the same time, in a small wooden hut, Yun Luofeng saw Hu Li and the little boy sitting in a daze at the door from afar. An imperceptible light flashed across her eyes. The instant Hu Li raised his head, he also saw Yun Luofeng appear in front of him. His eyes lit up, and he hurriedly stood up, madly rushing towards the young girl in front of him. But just as he was about to rush in front of Yun Luofeng and open his arms to hug her, the little tree suddenly raised its head and giggled. Just as he finished laughing, countless vines sprang up and firmly wrapped around Hu Li's body. Yun Luofeng, I've missed you to death. Do you know how bored I was when you weren't around? Hu Li's eyes were filled with resentment. That gaze was as if Yun Luofeng had done something that would incur the wrath of the heavens. I'm here to inform you that we'll be leaving the East Continent in 2 days. Really? Hu Li's eyes lit up. That's great. These few days in the East Continent, I've been on tenterhooks, afraid that I'll become that lunatic Hong Wan's punching bag. Do you know how many people were beaten up by her back in the academy? Now, all the students in the academy feel fear whenever they see her. Chapter 1360. Yun Luofeng listened attentively to Hu Li's words and nodded. Let me tell you a piece of unfortunate news. Hong Wan will be leaving with me. Crack. Yun Luofeng heard the sound of his heart breaking. Hu Li's smile froze at the corner of his mouth. He asked in disbelief, "Are you joking with me? You want to take that lunatic with you? Do you think that I'm joking?" Yun Luofeng raised his brows and asked. Hu Li's expression was filled with despair. "I'm finished. Traveling with this lunatic is equivalent to taking my life. You sold yourself to me for 10 years, it's too late to regret it now." Yun Luofeng gently raised the corners of his lips. She loved to see this fox man's expression of despair. "Master." Just then, Xiao Mo's voice rang out from behind Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng raised his brows and turned around. When he saw that Xiao Mo was alone, he paused and asked, "You're alone? Where's Xiao Bai?" "Master, Xiao Mo is missing." Xiao Mo's voice sounded a little bashful when he thought of Xiao Bai's kiss. That was his first kiss after all. He had only managed to recover from his shock with great difficulty, but by the time he had regained his senses, Xiao Bai had already disappeared. Xiao Bai may not have a complete mind, but it won't be easy to hurt her. My only worry is that she will be deceived by others. Don't worry, Master. I have already instructed Xiao Bai that if anyone tries to take off her clothes, they must be a bad person, so she has to protect her chastity. Xiao Mo grinned at Yun Luofeng as if he was asking for a reward. Based on Xiao Bai's state of mind, she certainly does not understand the relationship between a man and a woman. He had only instructed her to be careful to prevent Xiao Bai from being deceived by other men. Yun Luofeng glanced at Xiao Mo. Did you tell her not to leave with strangers? Xiao Mo's expression froze and he scratched his head. I forgot. Let's go, we'll talk after we find Xiao Bai. Yun Luofeng's evil eyes swept across Xiao Mo's handsome face as he spoke. I'll deal with you when we get back. Seeing that Yun Luofeng was about to leave, little Mo quickly followed behind her and nagged, Master, why is little White so disobedient? I was just distracted for a moment, and then she disappeared. This won't do. When she comes back, I'll teach her a good lesson, lest she gets kidnapped and sold. In the courtyard, a few guards sneakily walked in with a cute girl. When they saw that no one was guarding outside, they hurriedly brought the girl to the storeroom. The guard who had insulted Yun Luofeng looked at his companions and coughed dryly. He cleared his throat and said, Help me guard the door. I need to teach this girl a lesson so she knows how to serve the young master. Serve? Lin Ruobai blinked. I don't want to be a maid. When the guards heard the soft voice, they looked at each other and smiled. Don't worry, we're not asking you to be a maid. We're here to give you a life of luxury. From now on, you can have whatever you want. The guard grabbed Lin Ruobai's arm and pulled her into the storeroom. Lin Ruobai walked in, and what she saw was a mess. Her bright eyes were filled with confusion as she turned to look at the guard. Chapter 1361. Where are the delicacies? Haha. The guard laughed sinisterly. Young lady, if you want to enjoy the delicacies, you can only use your body as an exchange. Don't worry, my young master is very gentle. If you can win his favor, there will be countless delicacies waiting for you. At the mention of delicacies, Lin Ruobai's eyes lit up again. Really? Then how can I get the delicacies? Take off your clothes first. I'll check if you're still a virgin for my young master. Lin Ruobai did not understand what being a virgin meant, but she understood. The guard in front of her wanted her to take off her clothes. No, little big brother said that I can't let anyone take off my clothes. Anyone who wants to take off my clothes is a bad person. Lin Ruobai bit her lip and took 2 steps back. Young lady, don't be afraid. My young master will definitely treat you well. The guard's smile became even more sinister as he approached Lin Ruobai. At this moment, the guard, who was in the middle of his excitement, did not notice the red light in the young lady's eyes. Get lost. Lin Ruobai bellowed as he slapped the guard across the face. Smack. The guard's head spun rapidly like a top under the slap. Thud. In the end, his neck could not bear the weight of his head and rolled down, blood splattering all over the ground. Dead? Lin Ruobai was clearly shocked. She looked at her hand, her eyes filled with grievance. I didn't do it on purpose. He couldn't take it and died on his own. It has nothing to do with me. Also, little big brother said that if anyone molests me, I'll kill him. So I didn't do anything wrong. Although she said this, Lin Ruobai's eyes were filled with tears, and her face was pale. She looked at the decapitated corpse in front of her with fear. Her body curled up in a corner, trembling. Outside the door, the remaining 2 guards felt that something was wrong. Logically speaking, there should be no movement in the storeroom, but it was unusually quiet. Should we go in and take a look? The 2 of them looked at each other, feeling uneasy. However, just as they were about to push the door open, a loud bang came from the front, causing the ground to shake a few times. A young girl dressed in white walked in from outside. She evilly looked around and said in a cold voice, "Tell Ling Chen to get the hell out here." Ling Li and his son had already heard the commotion. When Ling Li saw the girl in white standing at the door, his anger surged. "Yun Luofeng, what are you trying to do?" Yun Luofeng looked at Ling Chen. "I heard that your Northern Continent's guards captured my disciple." "Yun Luofeng, don't slander me." Ling Chen's anger soared to the heavens, his face ashen. "I don't even know who your disciple is. How could I send people to capture her? I'm no longer bothering Hong Wan. What else do you want? Do you need to use such a lame excuse to get back at me?" Ling Li frowned. Hearing his son's words, he already understood that the girl in front of him was the person pretending to be Hong Wan's man. "I'll only give you one chance, hand over my disciple. Otherwise, even if my soul is destroyed, I'll make your Northern Continent go to hell with me." The girl's eyes were filled with arrogance. Her cold eyes fell on Ling Chen, and she said expressionlessly, "Haha." Ling Li coldly laughed, and looked at Yun Luofeng disdainfully. "I'm the Northern Continent's continent lord. You're just a new Saint King. What right do you have to speak to me?" Chapter 1362. Indeed, Yun Luofeng had just become a Saint King, and could not be compared to Ling Li. But, as long as she could save Xiao Bai, she had nothing to fear even if it cost her life. "Father," Ling Chen suppressed the anger in his heart and said, "She has a good relationship with Hong Wan. If you do anything to her, the East Continent Prefecture will definitely help you, so leave this matter to me." After saying this, Ling Chen stepped forward and said calmly, "Yun Luofeng, Ling Chen, can tell you that I did not take your disciple. You came to the wrong place. I can also let you search this residence. If you can't find your disciple, then you must apologize to me. If you find her, you can do whatever you want with the people of the Northern Continent." However, just as Ling Chen finished speaking, 2 guards hurriedly walked over. When they saw Yun Luofeng standing in front of Ling Chen, a layer of cold sweat appeared on their foreheads. They had not taken Lin Ruobai for long. Why did her master come looking for them so quickly? Unfortunately, even if she came looking for them, it did not matter. Could the forces of the Northern Continent not deal with these 2 women? "Master." Little Mo suddenly said, "I remember these 2 people. When we were in the restaurant, they kept staring at Xiao Bai and whispering. Because of the distance and the noise in the restaurant, I did not hear what they were talking about. But since they are the guards of the Northern Continent Prefecture, Xiao Bai's disappearance must have been caused by them." In an instant, everyone's eyes turned to the 2 guards. Ling Li's eyes were dignified as he asked coldly, "What happened?" "Sir Continent Lord," the older guard wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and said, This is what happened. We saw that young master has been depressed recently, so we brought back a woman to offer to young master. Moreover, that woman is willing. If you don't believe us, you can ask her." Since Lin Ruobai agreed to go with them, it proved that she intended to use her body to exchange for delicious food. "I say, young lady." Thinking of this, the old guard raised his head and looked at Yun Luofeng. "You treated your disciple harshly and didn't give her enough to eat. We really pitied her, so we brought her back. Moreover, we didn't force her, she was willing. Nonsense. Little Mo was furious and rushed over to teach the guard a lesson. Who knew that Yun Luofeng would suddenly reach out and stop him? Where is she? Yun Luofeng's voice was very low, and it was not hard to hear the murderous intent in it. Where is Whitey? At this moment, Little Mo suddenly recalled the scene from back then. In the past, in order to deal with Yun Luofeng, there was a clan that captured Whitey. In the end, they completely angered Yun Luofeng, and he slaughtered them all. This time, the North Continent Prefecture would not be able to exist for long. Ling Chen understood everything. He said mockingly, "Your disciple is so debauched, and you still dare to come to my residence to ask for him? If I, Ling Chen, want a woman, she will come with a wave of my hand. Even if that disciple of yours came to me, I might not be interested." Boom! Murderous intent surged from Yun Luofeng's body as she shouted coldly, "Little Mo." In an instant, Little Mo appeared in front of Ling Chen like a ghost. His speed was too fast, so fast that no one could react. Then, a hand slapped Ling Chen's face, and he was sent flying by the slap. Chapter 1363. I'll ask you one last time, where is Xiao Bai? The girl's killing intent surged. If you don't want to hand over Xiao Bai, then get out of the way. I'll find her myself. Ling Li's face was ashen. His tightly clenched fist was wrapped in a layer of valiant power. With a roar, he wanted to rush towards Yun Luofeng. At this moment, a domineering voice came from the void. Ling Li, if you dare touch my friend, the East Continent Prefecture will not let you off. Hong Wan, who was dressed in red, landed in front of Yun Luofeng. Her voice was loud, and it made Ling Li's figure stop. Hong Wan, you want to protect her against me? Ling Li's eyes narrowed, his tone threatening. Hong Wan put an arm on Yun Luofeng's shoulder and smiled. Yun Luofeng is my friend. Who do you think you are? Should I not protect her, but you? Looking at the girl in red in front of him, Yun Luofeng felt a warm feeling in his heart. Since she had come to find Ling Chen, she was prepared. Even if she could not defeat Ling Li, she was half confident that she could save Xiao Bai and escape. But, under such circumstances, Hong Wan had come. For her, he would rather fall out with the North Continent Prefecture. How could she not be moved by such friendship? Yun Luofeng. Ling Li took a deep breath and looked at Yun Luofeng coldly. You'd better not leave the East Continent for the rest of your life. Otherwise, I will kill you. Yun Luofeng smiled. That depends on whether you have the chance. Humph. Ling Li snorted and turned to look at the two trembling guards. Take her to see her disciple. The two guards' eyes were filled with fear. Only now did they remember why the name Yun Luofeng was so familiar. Wasn't Yun Luofeng the name of Hong Wan's man? But why did no one tell them that Yun Luofeng was a woman? Hong Wan, you're protecting the wrong person this time. Ling Chen's eyes darkened as he said in a low voice, it's Yun Luofeng's disciple who is greedy for power and wants to seduce me. She has the face to come here and ask for me, and yet you're protecting her? Hong Wan pretended not to hear Ling Chen's mockery and followed Yun Luofeng. Bang! The noisy storeroom was kicked open. Ling Chen and the others, who had been pleased with themselves, were dumbfounded when they saw the scene in the storeroom. The two guards who had abducted Lin Ruobai almost fainted from fright. They rejoiced in their hearts. If they hadn't been able to resist pushing open the door, what would have been waiting for them, master, little brother? Lin Ruobai raised her head and saw the crowd at the door. She let out a cry and rushed towards little Mo Bang. Little Mo was almost knocked over by Lin Ruobai. She quickly stabilized herself and gently comforted Lin Ruobai. It's all right. Master and I are here. Boo-hoo, I killed someone. I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't expect him to be so weak. I just gave him a light slap and he died. I really didn't mean to kill him. It was just a light slap. In the end, the guard's head was sent flying. Ling Li and the others had ugly expressions on their faces. Was this little girl looking down on the guards of the North Continent Prefecture? And she dared to say that the guard was weak? Don't be afraid. You didn't do anything wrong. Little Mo helplessly patted Lin Ruobai's back and looked at Yun Luofeng for help. Chapter 1364. He really didn't know how to comfort Lin Ruobai, who was like this. Xiao Bai, Yun Luofeng walked in front of Lin Ruobai, his palm gently caressing her head, and said softly, "This is a world where the strong prey on the weak. If you don't kill people, people will definitely kill you. Thus, if anyone bullies you in the future, just kill them. I will take care of the aftermath for you." Really? Lin Ruobai raised her head, her teary eyes gazing at Yun Luofeng. Master is definitely right. If anyone bullies me in the future, then I will kill them. A good child had to listen to her master. If her master said that killing was right, then what harm was there in killing them all? Master, these two people also lied to me. Lin Ruobai pointed at the two trembling guards. They tricked me into coming here, and even wanted to take off my clothes. Can I kill them? Yun Luofeng nodded, yes. Then I will kill them. Lin Ruobai smiled. This smile was very bright, innocent and pure. No one would have thought that the cruel words just now had come from the mouth of this pure and flawless young girl. Stop. Ling Li flew into a rage. He didn't think that someone would actually dare to kill his people in front of him. Thinking of this, he quickly rushed towards Lin Ruobai, the aura on his body surging, rumbling loudly. Boom! Yun Luofeng suddenly flashed, standing in front of Lin Ruobai, and raised his hand to meet Ling Li's attack. In an instant, a powerful force penetrated her body, causing her to instantly take a few steps back. A mouthful of blood almost gushed out of her throat, but she swallowed it back down. Yun Luofeng. Hong Wan shouted loudly. Master. Little Mo and Fire's expressions also changed unknowingly. Ling Li's attack was too fast, and Yun Luofeng's speed was also very agile, to the point that they were unable to react. Compared to these people's worries, Ling Li's eyes were filled with shock. Impossible, this woman is only a person who has just entered the Saint King stage. With her strength, she will definitely die under my palm. Why did she only take a few steps back? This is impossible. At the same time, a bloody hole appeared in the chests of the two guards. Lin Ruobai calmly withdrew her blood-stained fists. She stuck out her tender tongue and licked the bright red blood. Her appearance was full of evil, no longer as innocent and pure as before. Master? As Lin Ruobai turned around, she saw Yun Luofeng's pale face. She started, then hurried to his side. Master, are you hurt? I'm fine. Yun Luofeng shook his head and raised his head slightly. Lin Ruobai's black eyes gradually turned bloodshot. She clenched her fists tightly and stared coldly at Ling Li. You injured master, I won't let you off. Little White. Seeing Xiao Bai's state, Little Mo's expression changed. She quickly rushed forward and hugged the young girl tightly. Your soul hasn't fully recovered yet, so you can't use too much power. Otherwise, you'll go berserk. Let me go. Boom. Lin Ruobai's body exploded with a powerful force, forcing Little Mo to take a few steps back. Perhaps Little Mo didn't expect Lin Ruobai's strength to be so strong. He looked at her in shock. The power of her bloodline is actually this strong? Fortunately, she is Master's disciple. Otherwise, she would definitely become Master's enemy. Little Mo was very glad that Yun Luofeng had accepted Lin Ruobai. Chapter 1365. Little White, step down. Yun Luofeng also understood the consequences of Lin Ruobai forcefully using his strength. She frowned and ordered. Lin Ruobai's body stiffened as he looked at Yun Luofeng with a wronged expression. Master, Little White, your soul is incomplete. Remember my words, you can't use too much power in the future. Little White was an obedient child, especially when it came to listening to his master. Even though she was so angry that she wanted to kill someone, she still retracted her power and stood beside Yun Luofeng, feeling wronged. Ling Li, you hurt my friend. One day, I will repay you for everything that happened today. Hong Wan's cold eyes swept past Ling Li, walked in front of Yun Luofeng, and supported her body. Also, I will let my father settle the score with you later. Yun Luofeng, I will help you back to rest. If it was the Hong Wan of the past, she would definitely have impulsively gone to find Ling Li to settle the score. But now, her mind was calm. She knew that she and Yun Luofeng were not Ling Li's match, so there was no point in staying here. It was better to go back and find her father to help Yun Luofeng vent his anger. Yun Luofeng didn't say anything and allowed Hong Wan to help her out. After she left the courtyard, she ordered, "Fire, bring the little tree and little white back first." "All right." Fire nodded. She looked at Yun Luofeng, then picked up the little tree, pulled Lin Ruobai, and shot into the sky in a flash. At this moment, no one could see that the little tree's black eyes were filled with anger. His eyes didn't look like a child's, but more like an adult's. "Master, you used the power of the divine grimoire again." Little Mo curled his lips and said. This power was naturally not the kind that Yun Luofeng had used to save Yun Shao. Back then, in order to save Yun Shao, she had forcefully broken through, which had led to serious consequences. And this time, although she had also increased her strength, because she did not use that power to break through, her soul would at most be weakened for 10 days to half a month. Pucci. Yun Luofeng finally spat out a mouthful of blood that he had been suppressing at the back of his throat. She smiled faintly and said, "Is this the power of the continent masters? One day, I will be above them." "Master." Little Mo said angrily. "Little Mo, I know you're worried about me." Yun Luofeng looked at the youth beside him. "But I don't regret it. As long as I can make Xiaobai happy, I won't regret anything." If she hadn't borrowed the power of the divine grimoire, she probably wouldn't have been able to withstand Ling Li's attack. Even if she didn't die, she would have been severely injured. "Xiao Mo, don't tell Xiaobai about this. Even if that girl's mind isn't complete, she's not an idiot. I don't want her to worry too much." Yun Luofeng smiled. "Besides, don't forget that I'm a doctor. My weak illness will quickly recover." The two of them spoke through soul transmissions, so Hong Wan, who was beside them, couldn't hear their conversation. By the way, Hong Wan seemed to remember something and said, "You asked me to look for the little boy who was with Huli, but I couldn't find any information about him. He shouldn't be from the East Continent. As for the Ghost Emperor, I've already found out where he is." Yun Luofeng was startled. He stopped and turned to look at Hong Wan. "Where is he?" "The Middle State, Withered Dragon Town." "The Middle State, Withered Dragon Town?" Yun Luofeng muttered to himself for a moment. "Then go back and prepare today. We'll leave tomorrow." "No," Hong Wan frowned. "You haven't recovered from your injuries. You can't leave tomorrow." Chapter 1366. My injury isn't a big deal. It won't affect my journey. Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes as a light flashed across them. Yun Shao must be waiting for me in the Middle State. No matter what, I must go to his side. Hong Wan did not say anything else in the end when she saw the determination on the young girl's face. She only silently followed Yun Luofeng's side as a smile slowly formed on her beautiful face. In the Continent Lord's residence, when Hong Ling found out that her daughter had been humiliated by Ling Li, she flew into a rage, and immediately brought people to settle the score with Ling Li and his father. Even though Xiaobai had killed 3 of the Northern Continent's guards, they were in the wrong. As such, facing Hong Ling's fury, Ling Li could not say anything, and could only allow Hong Ling to demand compensation. Moreover, this was the Eastern Continent's territory, and most of his subordinates were not here. If he fought with Hong Ling here, a huge battle would be unavoidable. Moreover, it would result in a lose-lose situation. In contrast to Ling Li, who was holding back, Ling Chen's fury surged, and he stared at Hong Ling. He tightly clenched his fists, a vicious look in his eyes. One day, he would topple the Eastern Continent, and make Hong Ling and her daughter kneel in front of him and beg for mercy. Otherwise, he would not be able to quell his anger. After a while, the furious Hong Ling let go of Ling Li and his father. She flicked her sleeves, and led the people from the eastern continent's prefecture away. Ling Chen gritted his teeth, and glared in the direction that Hong Ling had left. "Dad, we're just going to let him insult us? And we're going to compensate Hong Wan for being scared?" Ling Chen was incredibly dissatisfied. His father was the continent lord of the northern continent, and yet Hong Ling did not give him any face. "This is the eastern continent, and adding on the fact that we were in the wrong, we definitely won't have a good ending against Hong Ling." Ling Li narrowed his eyes, and a dangerous light flashed in his eyes. "Son, you must remember that the northern continent and the eastern continent will never be able to coexist. If you find an opportunity, you definitely won't let Hong Wan off. Humiliating him would require a painful price." "Dad, I want Hong Wan to kneel in front of me and beg for mercy. And that woman called Yun Luo Feng, they'll all die horrible deaths." At this moment, the guilt and remorse in Ling Chen's heart towards Hong Wan had long since disappeared, replaced by boundless anger. Ling Li patted Ling Chen's shoulder and said, "Let's go back to the northern continent now. When we return to the mansion, I'll immediately send you to the forbidden area to train. After you leave the forbidden area, your strength will increase." "Father, are we not going to care about Hong Wan and Yun Luo Feng?" Ling Chen stared in surprise. "Didn't you say that you would kill Hong Wan and Yun Luo Feng as soon as they leave the eastern continent?" Ling Li shook his head. "Compared to them, it's more important for you to raise your strength. Once you've raised your strength, no one will be able to stop you from taking revenge. Furthermore, I'll leave my men in the eastern continent. If Hong Wan and Yun Luo Feng really leave, our men will kill them. As for you, there's no need for you to stay." "I understand." Ling Chen nodded, his eyes filled with determination. "Hong Wan looks down on me because I'm weaker than her. When I can step into the forbidden area, I will trample Hong Wan under my feet and let her understand how great of a loss it is to lose me." Even if he had Xia Chu, Hong Wan did not have the right to reject him. What man could guarantee that he would only have one woman in his life? Why would she look down on him? Chapter 1367. It was night. The moonlight was like water. A burst of giggling came from outside the door. Ling Chen's eyes, which were pretending to be asleep, suddenly opened. He looked towards the door and shouted, "Who is it?" Under the hazy night, a small figure stood in the shadow of the moon. This small person seemed to have just learned to walk, and was unable to stand steadily. However, his evil laughter was like a hungry ghost that had crawled out from hell, causing Ling Chen's body to tremble. Just when Ling Chen wanted to see who it was, with a whoosh, countless vines occupied the entire room, instantly binding Ling Chen's body to the wall. "Hold!" Before he could finish a word, a vine full of thorns grew from the side, and instantly pierced into his mouth. Bright red blood flowed out from his mouth, and it was so painful that Ling Chen almost cried. He wanted to call for help, but he couldn't even say a single word, and could only let out whimpering sounds. "Pa! Pa pa pa!" The vines fiercely whipped Ling Chen's body. Adding on the fact that Ling Chen had been pampered since he was young, and his skin was soft and tender, in a short moment, his skin had already split open, and blood was dripping out. Under the night, the fat baby clapped his hands and giggled, as if the scene in the room was exceptionally interesting. On his white and cute little face, there was an innocent smile. "Xiao Shu." A red dress jumped down from the tree, and stood beside the fat baby. "We should go, or else Master will find out that the two of us are missing." The fat baby curled his small mouth, as if he was still not satisfied, but he still obediently allowed Fire to hold his small hand, and gradually left the courtyard. After they left, the barrier around them also disappeared. When the two maids passed by, they heard the pa 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 sounds coming from the door, and their faces and ears turned red. Young Master's energy is really vigorous, but ever since Lady Xia Chu was chased out, young Master has not had any luck with other women. I wonder who was so lucky tonight. Let's not disturb young Master, in case we ruin young Master's mood. As the voices became further and further away, Ling Chen, who was in the room, wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He wanted to keep the two maids, but in the end, he could only let out whimpering sounds. In reality, there was a reason why the two maidservants had such a reaction. When Xia Chu was still around, she and Ling Chen would make a lot of noise every night, as if they were afraid that others wouldn't know that they were full of energy. At first, the maidservant thought that something had happened and rushed into the room. Who knew that what she saw was an unbearable scene? From then on, no matter how loud the commotion in Ling Chen's room was, no one dared to take a single step inside, especially since these two maidservants were women who had yet to mature, so they couldn't tell where the commotion in the room was coming from. If there was a woman here, she would be able to hear that there was only the sound of pa 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 in Ling Chen's room, but there were no sounds of a woman moaning. Therefore, it was not until the next day that the people of the North Continent Prefecture found their young master lying on the ground, half dead. His skin and flesh were torn, and blood was flowing from his mouth. He looked like a bloody man. Because of what had happened to the Northern Continent Palace, Ling Li had sent out all of his experts to find the culprit, as well as to evacuate with Ling Chen. He no longer had the leisure to deal with Yun Luofeng. Chapter 1368. As for why Ling Li did not suspect that it was done by the people of the Eastern Continent Prefecture. That was because, last night, his own son had been beaten up so badly, but he did not hear anything. There were very few people in the entire continent who could do this. With Hong Ling's power, if he appeared, it was impossible for him to not notice anything. Therefore, Ling Li eliminated the suspicion of the Eastern Continent Prefecture at this moment. In the Eastern Continent Prefecture, Yun Luofeng had already heard of Ling Li's tragic situation. She raised her eyebrows and looked at the two people standing in front of her. Shouldn't you give me an explanation? Last night, where did you two go? Fire lowered her head, not daring to look into Yun Luofeng's eyes. Her fingers nervously rubbed the corner of her clothes, looking like she was admitting her mistake. Mother. The sapling stretched out his chubby little hand and gently stroked Yun Luofeng's face. His eyes were clear, as bright as the afternoon sun. They bullied you. The ones who bullied you are all bad people. Yun Luofeng reached out and hugged the chubby baby in front of him. He sighed helplessly. Fire, sapling, don't act on your own in the future without my orders. For the Northern Continent to have the power it has today, they must have a trump card in their hands. If you fall into their hands, won't I have to save you? Hearing this, Fire's eyes lit up. Master, don't worry, when the little tree and I were moving, Xiao Mo set up a barrier for us. With that barrier, Ling Li will not be able to feel us. Little Mo, who was originally gloating at the side, heard Fire's words, and his expression immediately changed. However, it was too late for him to stop it. Fire had already completely betrayed him. Oh. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and looked at little Mo with a smile that was not a smile. The one who reported Fire and the sapling to me was you. I didn't expect you to be involved as well. What? Fire flew into a rage. He put his hands on his hips and stared angrily at little Mo. You exposed me and the sapling to the master? This, I can explain. Little Mo wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and wanted to explain. However, before he could finish his sentence, Xiao Shu lifted Xiao Mo up and gave her a good beating. Although Xiao Shu had only been born for a year, his mind was equivalent to that of a 5 or 6-year-old child because he was not human. Therefore, when he heard that little Mo had betrayed them, his little face turned red with anger. He seemed to have forgotten who had taken care of him. Little Mo was very miserable. Last night, it was because Yun Luofeng had asked him where the fire had gone that he spoke too much, causing him to suffer such a calamity today. If he had known this would happen, he would have kept his mouth shut last night and said nothing. When Hung Wan arrived, she saw little Mo being hung on the tree and beaten up by Little Tree. She was so shocked that her jaw almost dropped. Yun Luofeng, this guy is your son? Yun Luofeng pondered for a moment and said, no, but he called me mother. I thought he was your son, so valiant. Hong Wan stroked her chin and looked at Yun Luofeng with a smile. Yun Luofeng, I originally thought that if we left this place this time, we would definitely be chased by the experts of the Northern Continent. Now that the Northern Continent Prefecture is in chaos because of Ling Chen's injury, I'm afraid they won't be able to care about us. So, let's take this opportunity to leave this place.